I'd like to call our meeting to order. It is 6:01 p.m. and declare that we do have a board quorum present. If you will please stand for our invocation, which will be led by Mrs. Chris Dunn, and then our pledges of allegiance, which will be led by the Freeport Elementary School students.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for tonight, Lord, that we can meet here. Lord, just thank you for blessing us the way you have with facilities, the community that we live in. Father, thank you for tonight, for all these special recognitions that we get to rejoice and be happy over, and just thankful for all the great things that are being done here in the district. Father, thank you for our visitors. Just pray that everybody would have a safe trip home, and we just ask and just pray that everything done tonight will be to your glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Making its way to the front as we transition into our awards, achievements, and recognitions time. I will now turn the presentation over to Mrs. Carla Chrisman.
Good evening, Superintendent Massey, President Howard, board members, and all of our many guests and our fellow educators. It is my pleasure to present the very first recognition this evening. Tonight, I would like to ask Mr. Raymond Waddy to please join Mr. Massey at the dais. A few weeks ago, we held our 73rd Gulf Coast Relays and honored former BISD outstanding athletes. Unfortunately, Coach Waddy could not join us that day, so we've asked him to join us this evening. Mr. Raymond Waddy was selected as an honorary meet director and was a Brazosport High School athletic standout in multiple sports. Raymond Waddy Jr. attended public school in Brazosport schools his entire life. He was a 1975 graduate of Brazosport High School and was an outstanding athlete playing football, baseball, and running track. After graduating from Brazosport, Raymond went to Wharton Junior College on a full athletic scholarship where he excelled in football and track. Raymond later transferred to Texas A&I University in Kingsville, where he also lettered in football and track. Raymond was named captain of the track team during his senior year, and he earned his BS in secondary education biology degree from Texas A&I. Raymond's accolades at Texas A&I led him to playing football in the NFL. Raymond signed as an undrafted free agent in 1979 with the Washington Redskins, where he played 3 seasons. In '83, he moved to Canada to play in the CFL. In '84, he moved back to the States to continue his career in the USFL, United States Football League. In August of '85, Mr. Waddy accepted his first teaching and coaching position at Rockport Fulton High School in Rockport, later moving on to Houston in 1990 to take a position at Aldine ISD. After 8 years with Aldine, Raymond moved to defensive coordinator at Westfield High School in Spring ISD. After 7 years at Westfield, Coach Waddy took the head boys track and assistant football coach position at Conroe High School. After just 2 years, Coach Waddy moved on as defensive coordinator and track coach of Northland Christian High School, where he remained until 2010. And then his roots came a calling. Raymond decided to return to his hometown, his home community, to serve in BISD, where he has spent the last 13 years of his career as an outstanding public educator and a much, much beloved football coach and track coach at Brazos High School. Raymond's education and coaching career spans over 38 years. During that time, Coach Whitey has mentored and impacted thousands of young men and women, and I must tell you, the last 13 years, he's made a huge impact in the lives of the young women and men across the street at Brazos High School. And when we read out his dedication, those students stood up and clapped for you at the track meet. I just want you to know that, sir. They're very, very, very much supportive of you and very much miss you. In his career as an educator and life learner, Raymond Whitey has also been a member of the Omega Psi Phi fraternity, whose purpose is to serve and uplift communities around the world. And I have to say, he certainly exemplifies that. Raymond is married to the lovely wife, Rosalind, and they have 2 adult children. Coach Whitey, on behalf of Superintendent Massey, the Board of Trustees, congratulations, and thank you, sir, for your years of dedication and service to the children across Texas, and especially here in your home community. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. It is now my pleasure to turn this over to Mr. Richard Yo, Assistant Superintendent.
Good evening. Tonight we are proud to recognize Brazosport freshman Sophie Stowers. Sophie and Coach Collins will make their way in. Indeed. Hopefully she can carry it all in. Tonight we are proud to recognize Brazosport freshman Sophie Stowers. Sophie is accompanied this evening by Brazosport swim coach Adam Collins. In just her freshman year, Ms. Stowers was the regional champion in both the 100-meter butterfly and the 100-meter backstroke. As if this wasn't a great enough accomplishment, Sophie then went on to the UIL Swimming and Diving State Championships and brought home a bronze medal in the 100-meter butterfly and a silver medal in the 100-meter backstroke. In addition to that, she had a few records. Let's just make sure I got them all so you can tick them off as we go here. She's got a new school record in the 100 butterfly, breaking her own record 4 times this season. New school record in the 100 backstroke, breaking her own record 5 times this season. District 12-4A champion. New district 12-4A record in the 100 butterfly and 100 backstroke. She was the District 12-4A girls athlete of the meet. Region 3-4A champion in both the 100 butterfly and 100 backstroke. Set new regional records in 100 butterfly and 100 backstroke, and then of course brought home the bronze and silver from state. Ms. Stowers, we're very proud of you. Congratulations. We look forward to watching you for years to come.
Great job. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good evening, Board. Mr. Massey, thank you for having us this evening. It is my honor to introduce some outstanding young men and women and some great coaches to you this evening. We have a couple of teams here tonight that we're going to recognize who have had some great seasons. So first of all, I'm going to talk about our wrestling team real fast. Our head coach is Curtis Roberts, who just finished his 11th season as our head coach, and his assistant Frank Soto. So up first, Jake and Haley Basham. I'm going to introduce them together. They were born together. They're twins. Might as well be introduced together. So Jake and Haley are both seniors at Brazos Webb this year. Jake and Haley qualified for the UIL State Wrestling Meet that was held at the Berry Center in Cyprus. So they finished their career. Haley finished her season with a record of 42-9, finishing 12th in the state. Jake's senior season concluded in the second round of the consolation bracket with a final record of 51-12. He finished 11th in the state and broke the school record for the most career wins with 125. We have 4 wrestlers who were alternates to the state tournament, had great seasons. That is senior Ronnie Jones, sophomore Karen Kine, sophomore Aaron Rama, and senior Isaiah Cunningham.
In your dreams, buddy. Am I going to block you? We're good. Never mind.
Keeping up, Pam? Yes, I think I see everybody.
All right. Next up are 5 young ladies who just finished over spring break. Some girls powerlifters from Brazos Webb High School. They're here with their head coach, Trey Heckendorn, who just finished his first season as their head coach. I'm going to start with senior Haley Hughes. Haley competed in the 148 weight class. She was second at the regional meet in Alvin and third at the state meet in Frisco. She broke the regional record with her deadlift of 365 pounds. She deadlifted 385 at state. Yes. All right, I'm gonna say your name right. This is Damaris Medrano. Did I get that right? Also a senior. Damaris received 3rd place at the regional meet in Alvin and 3rd place at the state meet in Frisco. Last year, her total, so 3 lifts, bench press, squat, and deadlift, her total was 400 pounds last year. This year, it was 1,020. Great job. Junior Macy Riley. Macy finished 3rd at the regional meet in her weight class in Alvin and qualified for the state meet in her very first year of powerlifting. She started the state meet in 24th place and finished in 12th. She had a 330-pound squat and a 330-pound deadlift at the state meet. Senior Taryn McDougall. Finished 3rd overall at the regional meet in Alvin. Competed at the state meet for the 2nd year in a row. Her best lift with a 370-pound squat at the regional meet. And lastly, junior Ashlyn Ibarra. Ashlyn received 3rd at the regional meet in Alvin, qualified for the state meet in her first year of powerlifting. had a 390-pound squat at the regional meet. So let's give these young ladies a big hand.
For our next recognitions, I'd like to invite Assistant Superintendent Rita Cundiff and Assistant Superintendent Richard Jones back to the podium.
Good evening, Mr. Massey, board members. It is my privilege to recognize our elementary principal of the year. Ms. Bundick, if you will make your way to the front, please. Mrs. Bundick is an advocate for all students and sets high expectations for students and staff. In just her first year as principal, she helped to move the campus from a B rating to an A-rated school, earning 4 distinctions and creating systems and procedures for best practices. She ensures that Polk Elementary is a positive learning environment and exemplifies hard work and dedication. Ms. Bundick has been a successful educator for more than 28 years. Before being named the principal at Polk Elementary School, she has served as an elementary teacher at T.W. Ogg Elementary School, a high school teacher at Brazosport High School, a school counselor at Brannan and Polk Elementary Schools, and an assistant principal at Best Brannan Elementary. Amanda graduated from the University of Houston Clear Lake with a bachelor's degree in interdisciplinary studies with teaching certifications in grades 1 through 8, all subjects, 6 through 12 English language arts, and grades 6 through 12 dance. She then obtained her master's of school counseling from the University of Houston, Victoria, and her principal certification from Lamar University. Congratulations, Mrs. Bundick.
At this time, we're going to go ahead and recognize our secondary principal of the year, Dr. Jarrett Johnson. If you'll start making your way up to the front. As I look around the room, I see a lot of people that have been in Brazosport ISD for a while, and so you know that Freeport Intermediate has been achieving at high levels for quite a while. So to say that Dr. Johnson has come in and made a difference and made it an even better campus really says a lot. Dr. Johnson truly believes that all means all and has established a culture where the staff of Freeport Intermediate School work diligently to ensure students are successful academically and continue to grow socially through developmentally appropriate structures, routines, and activities across campus. Dr. Jerry Johnson has served as principal of FIS since 2020. He previously was an assistant principal at Galena Park Middle School and Galena Park ISD, where he also began his teaching career as a math teacher at North Shore Middle School and Galena Park ISD. Dr. Johnson earned his PhD in Educational Ethical Leadership from the University of St. Thomas in Houston, Texas, and has now brought his talents to Brazosport ISD. We're very proud to have you in the district, Dr. Johnson. Congratulations on being named secondary principal.
keep the fun going. I will be announcing the essential educator for elementary, Ms. Laura Pyle, if you will please make your way to the front. Laura Pyle is being recognized this evening as the elementary essential educator for the month of March. Laura was a graduate of Brazos Court High School and began her teaching career, Brazos Wood, I'm sorry. Brazos Wood High School, and began her teaching career at Velasco Elementary in 2013, and later moved to Boydell. On November 7th, Laura fell and broke her ankle, requiring surgery and a longer than expected recovery. Upon hearing how long she would be out of the classroom, Laura began working with her team to ensure that her students received as much support as possible while she was out. Her principal, Laura Morris, said that it was a struggle to keep Laura away from work. She went to great lengths to get back to her students as quickly as possible, returning in January by renting a motorized scooter to help her transition back to her second grade classroom. Laura is thankful for her team for the support that they provided her during this challenging time. In a time of teacher shortage, we are thankful that Ms. Pyle maintains a whatever-it-takes attitude and models perseverance for her students. Mrs. Pyle's students love her and learn lots about math and fractions in her class. We are thankful for Laura's dedication to BISD and appreciate her setting the standard for educational excellence. Congratulations, Mrs. Pyle.
We would like to congratulate the March Essential Educator Spotlight recipient for secondary, Ms. Mary Edwards at Brazos Success Academy. Ms. Edwards teaches career prep and works with students in credit recovery at BSA. Ms. Edwards sets clear expectations in her classroom, encouraging students to set goals and holding them accountable for the work to reach them with a no excuses mentality. She is a strong instructional leader at BSA with a welcoming and reassuring classroom environment. When we went to BSA to award Ms. Edwards, several students actually went out of their way to tell us how much she made a difference in their lives. And I got to tell you, if you don't know the kids at BSA, it says a lot for them to be that excited for one of their teachers. It really does. One student went so far as to read us an essay they had literally just finished writing for the school newspaper about the impact Mrs. Edwards had made for her individually, and told us she would not be graduating if it wasn't for her help and support. Congratulations, Mrs. Edwards.
This does complete our recognition for this evening, but we'll be back next month with a lot more.
At this time, in accordance with BED Local, the board will provide an audience with individuals who have signed up prior to the meeting to address the board. Tonight we have 8 who would like to speak to the board. Mr. Atkins will serve as our timekeeper, and for those requesting to speak, please note that comments are limited to a maximum of 5 minutes per speaker, with a maximum of 30 minutes total allotted for public comment. Delegations of more than 5 shall appoint a representative to present their views to the board. The board will not entertain negative comments on individual personnel or students in public session. Patrons are encouraged to use appropriate campus and administration channels before bringing concerns to the attention of the board, and board members are not allowed to deliberate, discuss, or make decisions regarding any subject that's not included on the agenda posted. Our first speaker, the Deltas, Brazosport area alumni. Intro of the organization, this is Carolyn Edwards, Edna McMillan Ward, and Lois Davis. Correct?
Good evening.
Okay.
Excited about being here this evening. I think when we decided to come to this meeting, we didn't realize it would be this many people. Really excited to be here. Anyway, if my chapter could please stand for a minute. My speech is written down so y'all don't make me nervous. Anyway, it's good evening. Board President Mason Howard, Superintendent Danny Massey, and all board members present. I bring you greetings from our President, President Sheila Austin, and our absent in the Brazosport Area Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, who you just saw stand up just a few minutes ago. I'm Carolyn Edwards, and of course I'm joined this evening by a few of my members, Soror's members of our chapter. Our chapter represents over 350,000 educated black women across the United States and abroad. We represent, our sorority was founded in 1913 with express goals of scholarship, service, sisterhood, and social action on the campus of Howard University in Washington, D.C. Locally, we're located in the Brazosport area, and we currently support Lake Jackson, Clute, Freeport, and the Angleton area. Tonight, we're here to show support to BISD, which has been very generous to us in the past years, allowing our sorority to use the use of facilities on many campuses across the district in support of student success in BISD, which we have appreciated very much. To name a few, and I don't like to call names, but I am going to call a few names. To Superintendent Massey, Mr. Yos, Mr. Rock at Brazosport High School, Ms. Fulton at Clute Intermediate. Thank you for your support over the last few years. They've allowed us to use their facilities for events that we've had. This week, several of our chapter members who are in the audience tonight, from retired administrators, retired teachers, they will be participating in the Literacy Day week in a few of the schools, A.P. Bartle, T.W. Ogg, Velasco Elementary, and they'll be reading to and with elementary students, as well as later in the year, in May, we'll be presenting scholarships to high school seniors in the upcoming weeks to Brazoswood and Brazosport High School, as well as Angleton, because they're in our area as well. Tonight, we just wanted to reintroduce ourselves to the district and as well as to the board. Thank you for your time. We look forward to your continued support to our endeavors in the community, because we are in the community. You're going to see us in lots of red and white, red and black, but we're here and we're in support of teachers, of staff, and all of that. Plus, we work in the district. I work in the district. We ask that you reach out to our president, Sheila Austin, if we can be of assistance to the district, under the guidelines of Delta Sigma Theta, because we are governed by guidelines, and there are some things we cannot do in future endeavors or partnerships. President Sheila Austin, a retired BISD teacher, is not in attendance tonight. She had planned to be, but as I speak tonight, our immediate past president, Cheryl Sellers, is being sworn in at Brazosport College as the newest Board of Regents there. So we're excited about that as well. So some of us may be split over there, over here. So again, just want to say thank you. We're glad we're here. I come to several board meetings, so I enjoy coming to them just to know what's going on in the district. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, Ms. Susan Geister, would like to to come? Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Got it right.
Mr. President, Board of Trustees, and Mr. Massey, thank you. Thank you for letting me speak today. My name is Susan Geisler. I appreciate your decision to retain the positions of 2 high school librarians. Many parents and students were very, very pleased to hear that news, and so was I. I am also delighted that you will take a closer look at the elementary search teachers and the decision to possibly eliminate them, and the effect that it might have on elementary search students. I know that the board is very familiar with TEA, our state agency that guides school districts in assuring that schools are providing appropriate skills to students in their care. TEA services GT students in the following ways. They provide best practices and examples for that, and implementing model assessment procedures and services, and facilitating partnerships among parents, the community, teachers, and administrators in order to provide opportunities for gifted students and all students so that they can have a challenging education that enables them to maximize their potential. I hope that you will let TEA guide you when you make decisions. I have several concerns here that I detailed in an email that I sent to all of you, so I'm not going to reiterate that because that is the purpose of that email. But I do have some concerns. And of course, I'm not expecting answers, I just have concerns. One, will teachers, community members, administrators, search teachers, and parents be a part of the decision? TEA requests that they do, and I referenced that in the email. The search letter sent home to parents indicated that the elimination of search was due to a scheduling issue. Since search teachers travel to multiple campuses, it may limit the pull-out schedule, and some students may miss core academic subjects. Therefore, to eliminate that issue, the writer of the letter said that the classroom teacher would provide the search students with enrichment during their scheduled intervention time. My concern here is that it is a campus scheduling issue and could easily be fixed to accommodate the campus schedule. Principals, in my opinion, are masters at schedules. This is absolutely no reason to eliminate search teachers unless, of course, that letter was not transparent about the real nature of the issue. And third, search teachers provide support much like other specialists in the district. They provide a service in making sure that the services are compliant with the state plan and that this population is served with fidelity in all corners of our district. Also, if you plan to use classroom teachers for the delivery of search curriculum and programming, these teachers will quickly be overwhelmed. Many campuses are losing intervention support as well, and that would make it difficult for these teachers to provide intervention and enrichment at the same time. If I could and had time, I would read the 27 responsibilities and duties that a search teacher has. It's in the Advanced Academics Handbook, and I referenced that in the email. And if you had to add those responsibilities to classroom responsibilities as well, that certainly would overwhelm even the most dedicated classroom teacher. Even if you were to redistribute the responsibilities of the classroom teacher, it would be very difficult for everyone involved. In the early days of search, the classroom model was for this classroom teacher. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Ms. Geisler, he was saying you had 1 minute left. He wasn't trying to
That
cut
was
you
my
off.
warning?
That was your
I
warning.
don't have much to say more, so I'm almost done if I can find my notes here. Okay, so In the early days of search, the classroom model was tried, and it was quickly redesigned to have a search teacher. So why repeat history? Thank you for your time. I believe it's a grave mistake to eliminate search teacher positions, and I left my contact number. If you have any questions or you need any explanations on what I said, I would be glad to expound on it. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Ms. Jamie Sandridge.
Hello, everybody. I'm 39 years old. I grew up here, BISD. My kids are in there. My parents were in there. This is, I never thought I would get involved this way, but here I am. Massey, you quoted that attendance is down from families having difficulties finding places to live. That's the problem. Limited land to build. New housing to attract new residences. I doubt that, sir. The residence is not down, and students can't find houses. That's not true. If that was true, then why did y'all pass in 2014 to rebuild everything? If you knew this was coming, right? Or is it just guessing, or are you just throwing crap out? The lowered enrollment has nothing to do with housing. I've seen parents homeschool, withdraw from your district. I've seen parents put their kids into private schools. I've seen parents move to other districts to get away from here. Teaching positions are vacant. I think you said it, that there's a teaching shortage. You said that in the awards. By the way, who is Mr. Yost? He talked a little bit of crap about the students over there at Brazos Academy, and that was really offensive to me. Oh, well, these students, that's just what? No, don't. Man, y'all got me fired up. So, teachers are getting paid to retire early. They're not going to retire early because whatever the incentive is crap. Teachers are leaving districts to work elsewhere. I know this from my own students, or my own kids telling me this. You say you're relying on early retirement. There's a shortage of students and a shortage of teachers, meaning something wrong's happening around here. I saw that you are dissolving the behavior specialists, but leaving the technicians. Well, why not get rid of the technicians and actually leave the, specialists there? So, with the gifted and talented and the librarian, you were going to remove them, but you backtracked. I guess you can't handle the pressure. You seemingly are removing the positions needed for children to succeed. Teachers can't interfere and stop a child who is wild. They are told to remove from the classroom with those children while they await. A lot of students are getting lost in your district. You're setting them up for failure. Now I'm going to get to one of my main things that I think would help with school shootings around here, with the Guardian Plan, which y'all already turned down. It is to arm teachers and the staff. We don't know who they are. We don't need to know who they are. They are vetted very well. They are ongoing training. An active shooting is less than 2 minutes. It takes more than 15 minutes for any law enforcement to get there. What are they going to do? Sit there and be ducks? Let's not. Let's take action. East Texas schools are already in place. Tyler, Texas, the largest school district in East Texas, arms teachers and staff to add security to ensure safety on campus. That was August 4th, 2022, so it's been there a while already. I bet it's just going good. Santa Fe has also joined in, along with others in East Texas. How about we join them? And give staff quicker response to threats such as shootings until the law enforcement arrives. Right now, I heard the teachers, they're armed with an app. That's sad. That's what they're told that they're armed with, is a video app. I don't get this. So they basically shield and insulate the children and the staff like they are already doing, but just, more properly. Like I said, this addresses the threats of a shooting in the fastest time. 1 minute. Gates Foundation. Did y'all sign that last year? Everybody know that? Gates Foundation. Look it up. changes everything. They make the material, they tell the teachers how to teach, it implements practices, protocols, and systems. Basically takes over the whole school system through teaching material down to how the teachers can teach. Changes the system of what the kids are learning and how. $1 billion in funding in math last year. The foundation puts all the money into math and cuts grants like reading, writing, and arts. For democracy to function, people need literacy. The Gates Foundation uses local tax dollars and government funding. There's also an effective teaching initiative which changed schools' recruitment, retainment, and rewards teachers. I don't like this. They already failed 7 years ago, so I don't know why we would sign again with somebody that failed. Transgender in an intermediate school dealing with are you kidding me? You're allowing a girl to go into the boys' bathroom. That's a sexual assault waiting to happen. And now they all must address Lucy? They must address Lucy as Luke now. Tip of the iceberg, and I found more.
It's time.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
Next speaker we have is Elaine
Manakis.
Olmanakis. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Superintendent Massey, Mr. President, the board, other attendees. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Elaine Polmanakis. I am a graduate of Brazoswood, class of '92. First, I would like to thank BISD for listening to the fervent response from the community and reinstating the positions of high school librarians. I can personally attest to the importance of school librarians in my life, from Betty Wolf at Boydell, who opened up the big kids section of the library to little kid me and guided me to authors and books that she thought I would enjoy, to Peggy Borchers at Brazoswood, whose instruction on academic research served me well in college, law school, and beyond. I am very proud to be a product of BISD and have benefited from so many dedicated and talented teachers, some of whom are in the room. However, if I am asked to name the most influential part of my BISD experience, it is the search program. I am old enough to have to admit that it was in the early days of the program. Mrs. Sanders and Mrs. Moffitt would come to Boydell one day a week and take me and some other 4th and 5th graders out to class for the morning and provide lessons in critical thinking and problem solving, encouraging us to be creative and collaborative, exposing us to concepts that there simply isn't time for in a regular classroom. We tackle problems like prison overcrowding and healthcare access. And not only had our thoughts and ideas taken seriously, we were given the feedback and the tools to make our ideas better. Search day was my favorite day of the week, and the one day I would actually try to go to school when I was sick. To be the recipient of this kind of focused attention from a teacher who is trained to help someone with your unusual abilities to develop is a blessing. This is not an experience a student can have in a regular classroom, no matter how dedicated and talented the teacher. Absent cloning, there is simply not enough time to provide the focus that this type of enrichment requires in a room filled with so many kids with such varied needs and abilities, especially during a time set aside for interventional instruction. Asking teachers to service all their students' differentiated needs at one time is only going to diminish the education of all students, including those in need of more intensive intervention to reach or stay at grade level. Many gifted children are the quiet, well-behaved ones, and human nature says that the squeaky wheel gets the grease. I experienced that in my own elementary school classroom, despite my teachers' best efforts to provide individualized instruction. Without the challenges provided by enriched instruction, gifted students can check out and underperform because they're bored. And I cannot emphasize enough to you the feeling of belonging you get and normalcy when you're in a room filled with kids who think more like you. Kids who don't think it's strange that you're reading the 2-inch thick book at recess, or that you have an encyclopedic knowledge of venomous animals or Greek mythology, to name a random example. While it is heartening that the administration has decided to pause its proposed changes to the search program to engage with stakeholders and provide an opportunity for stakeholder feedback, it's distressing that this idea reached the implementation age without such engagement. I have always said that I don't have kids, but if I did, I would absolutely send them to BISD. I hope that after this process I will still be able to say that. Now, while I am merely a BISD taxpayer and not a BISD parent, I am willing to provide whatever assistance and support I can for this life-changing program. Thank you.
Next speaker is Ms. Addie Walls.
Well, Elaine said everything that I was thinking, so that was wonderful. I was shaking my head in agreement with all of those things. I am a product of Brazosport ISD. My husband is, my parents were. We've got lots of history here. We moved back from out of town, back to BISD, and I knew this was a place that I wanted my children to go. My oldest was in 7th grade, my middle was in 4th grade, and my baby was in kindergarten. He went through the search program, and he is one of those gifted children that she was talking about. Bored to tears in the regular classroom. This cannot be serviced in the regular classroom any more than someone on the other end of the spectrum can be serviced in a regular classroom with one teacher expected to differentiate everything. It will not work. And those kids are the easiest to be marginalized, and that's exactly what you're doing, is marginalizing the product of our future here, the kids that are going to do things. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Chip Adams.
Thank you all. You know, a lot of what I want to talk about has already been said. I will say this, I think we've got a few problems here. One of the things was the process. If you're going to cut programs, do it in public. Let everybody hear how you're discussing it so that we can have input. Don't do it in an executive session. This isn't something where you're dealing with a child that needs, you know, some kind of protective issue. Let's talk about things. Tell everybody, look, we got a $24 million deficit. These are the programs we got. This is what you got to pick from. Just do it in public so there's not a bunch of conspiracy theories. That's number one. Number two, I want to talk about search. And we've talked about how great it is, and I think everybody knows it. But what I think we haven't talked about is my kids are not the ones going to be hurt by search being gone. They've got resources. The kids that are going to be hurt are the ones that have families of 4 to 6 children. The parents are working 3 jobs, and they need that enrichment. Those are the kids going to be hurt by getting rid of search. The teachers can't do what you're talking about. If what you said is true, that this is a better way to do it, and it's cheaper, you would have done it 5 years ago. Don't tell us that. We know what the reason is. This is a budget cut. That's legit. We all understand it. Be in the open. Let the parents have input. Let the district have input. Let your constituents have input on all of this. I understand that you sent out requests from the schools for input on, ranking and all that kind of stuff. And just tell everybody that. Do it in public. But I will tell you this, the kids that are going to be hurt most by this search issue are not your high-income kids. They're your low-income kids. And keeping the GT Academy at OG, everybody knows that's just to keep test scores up. So let's have an honest conversation and be real with each other. But let's talk about the real impacts of what's going to happen if you get rid of some of these programs. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Mr. Jared Wilson.
I am not a public speaker, and I'm definitely not a search student, but I am here to talk about search publicly, so brace yourself. All right. All right, so I actually, in all transparency, I sent this to Dr. Massey just yesterday because I believe in being transparent, but I have not talked to y'all, and I appreciate y'all's time. I was made aware on Wednesday, March 15th by text alert regarding the financial scale back. And I understand, as we've all kind of discussed, some of the things that are going into that, the reasons that have kind of pushed you all to have to figure out where can we make these cuts, where can we make these savings. I have some concerns I feel prudent to discuss in light of the proposed decisions directly impacting my children's education, our local community, and the future academic success of our next generation. And I honestly believe y'all hold that same passion for their future of this next generation, because that's why y'all are sitting up here. So I thank y'all for listening to me. I first must say that my children have flourished within BISD. There is so much greatness I could highlight regarding the staff, our facilities, the tools we offer, and while I recognize we often hear only when someone's upset, I don't want to lose sight of all the great that we're actually doing in this district, because we are doing a lot of great things, and I thank y'all for everything that you do. My concern today is specifically regarding the search program and the proposed changes in vision for this upcoming school year. While I understand no decision is an easy one when needing to save money, you must first decide what BISD is excellent at and what you want to be known for. While I may be off on the dollars, I think it's somewhere around like $22, $24 million that you'll need to save in the next few years. I believe there are currently 4 search teachers serving BISD, and cutting those teachers will save, with benefits, possibly $400,000. Y'all, this seems like a poor return on a significant cut of student needs and merely a drop in the bucket towards the savings you're directly working to acquire. Meanwhile, search teachers needing to be equipped to best serve our student population grows from only 4 to greater than 40, and this is both inefficient and ineffective. Having previously been a teacher for 7 years, 3 of which in this great district, I can assure you the teachers will be sacrificing their planning and prep time to reach these students, so in the end, everyone loses, and the district saves little. We don't want to be penny wise, but a pound foolish. Search directly impacts some of the most brilliant minds our district was blessed with, the ones that will go on to serve our community, create, invent, lead, and design our future successes. Please don't remove search teacher positions. If y'all are really desiring to save $20 million in the next couple of years, I hate to say it, but athletics needs to be massively overhauled. Saving $400,000 by eliminating opportunities for fostering brilliance in our children's minds seems counter to the priorities of an academic institution, while we continue spending millions on athletics. Having played football in high school, I never went pro. Having played football in high school, I recognize the benefits of sports and the life application that can be drawn from such opportunity. I'm spoiled, I'm a Chiefs fan. But sports are not the primary purpose of schooling. I believe we deserve to know the cost per student in search versus students in athletics. I'm guessing there's a massive disparity between the two, and we deserve to know the facts, from groundskeeper to stadium to coaches to trainers and equipment. I'm guessing there's a disparity. I have been blessed to see my 2 daughters, one of which, Lily over there, love my Lily bug, has been impacted in incredible ways by some passionate and educated teachers that are guiding them. One of my daughters is flourishing in the GT Academy at Ogg, and my second daughter just qualified for search in kindergarten at Best Brandon. Dr. Massey, school board, please don't sacrifice the integrity of our academics while justifying the resources poured into athletics, because the eyes of our community are closely watching the priorities that our district holds dear. And what you all choose to do next defines the values that you hold closest. Thank you.
Our last speaker is Ms. Cynthia Brown.
Okay, I'm Cynthia Brown from the Girl Scouts of St. Joseph Council, and I just wanted to take a moment and thank you for allowing me, Mr. Massey and the board, for just saying thank you for all that you all have done and your support of Girl Scouts and your partnership, because we appreciate everything that you all have done and what you're doing. So I do have a little token, a little gift to give to the board members, just for everything that you've done. Okay, so I'm going to make this quick. Okay.
Make sure they get up here.
Yeah. Well, I was okay. Yeah. There's a thank you note from Girl Scouts. So somebody goes. Thank you, thank you.
I attended the luncheon.
Awesome.
My buddy Tom Jackson.
Thank you, babe. Good job, Dana. Thank you.
Perfect. We're good. You're good.
Okay. Here you go.
Speakers. Next item on our agenda will be our consent agenda. Are there any items that are requested to be pulled from our consent agenda this evening? All right. Hearing none, then do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second? It's been moved by Mr. Atkins and seconded by Mr. Dunn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by nay? All right, that's carried. Then we'll move on to our action items. Public comment will be allowed before a vote is taken on each action item. Our first action item is the Velasco Drainage District Resolution. Mr. Massey.
Yes, thank you. The Velasco Drainage District, and I see Stuart Herbst is here, is constructing the congressionally authorized Freeport and vicinity hurricane protection project, flood protection project, or the Freeport HFPP, together with the United States Army Corps of Engineers. The industrial complex in the Velasco Drainage District is the lifeblood of the local economy and a significant contributor to the economy of Texas as a whole. The taxable value in just the VDD, which is in the southern part of Brazoria County, exceeds $10 billion, and the actual value, including abated and exempt values, is more than $25 billion. Countywide, the taxable value is over $65 billion, with the actual value exceeding $75 billion. The people in the industrial developments are vulnerable to tropical storms, and 100% of the county is in the hurricane evacuation zone. An estimated 20% of county residents live in the 100-year floodplain. Enhancing both storm protection and interior drainage is essential to urgent life safety and economic growth needs. The Velasco Drainage District executed a project partnership agreement, or PPA, with Corps Engineers on March 16, 2021 for the Freeport HFPP. Under that agreement, the VDD's 35% share of project cost is $246,446,900 million. As the VDD does not have funds to meet the required share of project costs, the board understands that VDD committed to the PPA with the Corps of Engineers only after obtaining a local cooperation agreement with the Texas General Land Office for the state funding the Velasco Drainage District's $250 million obligation to the Freeport HFPP. The 86th legislature appropriated $200 million to the Texas General Land Office to provide state matching funds for the Corps Engineers project in Texas. For those funds, the Texas Grant Land Office allocated $20 million to the Velasco Drainage District, which enabled the VDD to execute the PPA with the Corps to initiate the Freeport HFPP. The VDD board understands that the Velasco Drainage District will require an additional over $2 million to meet its required share of the project cost. However, the 87th legislature did not allocate any funds for the Freeport HFPP. Moreover, the Velasco Drainage District boards understands that the state might not intend to provide any further funding for the Freeport HFPP. Although we understand the VDD entered into this $250 million obligation on that project in reliance on the local cooperation agreement with the Texas Grand Land Office for that funding. The VDD board
board believes that such appropriations should be provided considering the VDD's reliance on such funding and the extreme importance of this project. The legislature's decision on funding for the Freeport HFPP will affect the economy of Texas as a whole and will have a massive economic impact on the hundreds of thousands of people and industries in Brazoria County. The administration recommends the BISD Board of Trustees to respectfully urge the state of Texas through a board resolution to appropriate funds for Velasco Drainage District's obligation on the project partnership agreement for the Freeport Hurricane and Flood Prevention Project pursuant to the local cooperation agreement with the Texas General Land Office. Mr. Herbst would be able to answer any further questions you may have.
Any questions from the board?
Do you have I'm sure you've been working with the local industry for their support. Is that going well?
Yes, sir. When I took over as chairman of the board in October of last year, knowing that the project was about to go into bid and award phase for the project, the first project being the floodgate at the end of the Dow Barge Canal, which is worth $100 million. I decided to take it upon myself to go out to the local industrial leaders, beginning with Freeport LNG on Quintana Island, which is, I represent Area 3, which is Quintana Island, Freeport, and Surfside Island, to reach out to our industrial leaders to gain support and ask for their help in this matter. Freeport LNG, I spoke with Mike Casada at downtown at the FLNG office. He said, "What can I do?" I said, "I would appreciate a letter of support urging our Texas legislators to support us in this urgent matter." I got a letter that afternoon. I came down the road to the Port of Freeport. Phyllis Sathoff has been a great ally in this matter. Not only did she issue a letter of support, she got the port commissioners to do a resolution in support as well. Came on down the road, spoke to SI Group. He was more than enthusiastic about what can I do to help. Got a letter from him, went next door to Trish Thompson and Scott Daigle with ME Global. They again said, "What can we do to help?" We got a letter from them a couple of days later. Went to Olin, to their site leader. She issued a letter of support. Across the street, Shintech, Paul Spinks, president of the Gulf Coast Petrochemical Council, got a letter of support from him, and he said, "Well, let's go ahead and reach out to the rest of the council members for their support." Then spoke with Brad Morrison and David Winder with BASF. They enthusiastically gave a letter of support, said, "What can we do?" So this has gone not only just from the industrial leaders, but it also went to the city of Lake Jackson, city of Clute, and the city of Freeport, all issuing resolutions in support. Went to St. Luke's Hospital, got a letter of support from them, the BWA, Brazos Port College, the Alliance in Angleton, all have given letters of support. And last but not least, Judge Sebesta issued a letter of support in this endeavor. And last week, Superintendent Massey said, "Listen, I think we should get behind this," and so we're here tonight. But I tell you, I'm very, very pleased and overwhelmed with the support from the industrial sector, the governmental sector, and the educational groups. It's good to know that when the chips are down, that you can rely on your partners down here. And every one of them said, "What can we do to help?" and roll up our sleeves. So I have to commend not only them, but your board of trustees here as well for taking this on. A little bit of an update. We are getting pushed back from Senator Joan Huffman's office. We are actively, we have Cody Basut in Angleton, Ed Thompson, Friendswood, Greg, with, Bannon, I'm sorry. Bannon, he signed we've sent all the letters of support to his organization, and we've been sending those through Gloria Millsap, is the district director for Senator Huffman, and she's been in turn sending those letters to the office. But we're getting pushback, and they're thinking, well, you guys, if you wanted money, you should have joined the Gulf Coast Protection District. The Gulf Coast Protection District is a taxing entity that would love nothing more than to come down in Brazoria County, provide funding, but levy taxes on us, and then take that tax money and put it into 5 other counties to the north of us, Chambers, Galveston, Harris counties. And I go back to this, the Revolutionary War, no taxation without representation. They got an 11-man board made up of President of Bechtel, Adrian Garcia, and different people from Galveston and Chambers County, and we would be lucky to get 1 seat on that board, but we certainly would not have a voice. But our 2 superpowers are our voice and our votes. I'm going to suggest that anybody in here who has an interest in this, because if this should end up in the taxpayers' pockets, the Velasco Drainage District tax, which right now is at 7 cents, will probably go to 14 or 21 cents. Not huge numbers, but at the same time, the state right now has a surplus of close to $32 billion that they've been touting for the last 6 months, so what better time to approach the state and ask for this funding. So, there's been rumors that they have $13 million that they'd like to give us, but that's a far cry from the $226 million that they agreed to pay us back in March of 2021. So, it's not over yet. We've got a conference call in the morning with some state legislatures and governmental affairs folks in Austin, and we hope we can get more out of this. But I had a meeting with the Corps of Engineers, a guy named Ian O'Sullivan, who's going to be running the S2G project. He told me, his words were, I would be shocked if the GCPD taxed Orange and Port Arthur, who have already signed with the Gulf Coast Protection District. He said his words were, I would be shocked if they put a tax on them, because they don't have the money to pay it. But do you take that as its face value, or do you continue to push for what they promised us in 2021? So we're going in this with our eyes wide open. The project right now for Freeport is $704 million. And it's spread out between the floodgate at the end of the Dow Barge Canal, a wall that would run through the port of Freeport with 11 gates, raising a levee, 13-mile levee, 3 or 4 feet, and a T-wall in Plan A that's about 5,000 lineal feet. But I can tell you right now, the scope of work is fluid. Because of environmental issues, we don't know how much they're going to be able to do. The floodgate right now is all but dead. The T-walls also have some concerns because once you stick a shovel in the ground, no telling what you're going to find. But I'm just here to tell you folks, if you want to call Cody Massoud's office, Greg Bonin's office, or Ed Thompson's office, reach out to your Congress folks and put the bug in their ear that you think that this is foul play. I strongly urge you to let your voices be heard, because the time is running out in the next month and a half when they'll actually pass legislation on this. But I'm telling you that the industrial sector and the government offices are in the southern Brazoria County are behind this, as the hospital and Sylvester's Court, yourselves, Brazos College, everybody is behind us. We just got to get the state of Texas to act, because we are a major economic driver for the state of Texas, hands down. And we're also an economic driver for the nation. We export 40% of the energy products out for the United States comes out of this Gulf Coast here. So we are definitely a voice to be reckoned with, and I suggest to all to let your voices be heard and your votes be heard. And with that,
It's kind of unfortunate that our representative from Senator Huffman's office has left. She was here. We could have presented it to her, so, but anyway, I digress. Sorry.
There's not any further questions. Any questions from the board, the audience?
Anybody? Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Well,
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we approve the resolution and forward it to our legislators.
Second it.
it's been moved by Jerry and seconded by Scott. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And all opposed by nay. All right, that carries. Next item on our agenda is, guarantee the maximum price for the new Brazosport High School Career and Technical Education Facility and Improvements. Ms. Nelly?
Thank you. Good evening. In alignment with Board Policy CBE, it is my pleasure to present the guaranteed maximum price for the construction of the new Brazosport High School Career and Technical Education Building. Included in the 2019 bond program, there were various projects at Brazosport High School. The projects were broken into two phases, with Phase 1 under construction and included the construction of the new field house and athletic improvements to the baseball and softball fields, as well as the improvements to the Hopper Field. And then Phase 2 is the CTE additions and renovations and the front parking lot addition at Brazosport High School. Phase 1 will be completed in August of this year. Phase 2 will begin upon approval of the GMP tonight, and then the completion of that will be phased in between August of '24 and December of '24. The new parking lot, however, will be completed this summer. The construction will include a new addition of the front to the front of the current CTE wing, which will include a state-of-the-art cosmetology training lab, and then also, will be a new career pathway opportunity for our students. And it will also include a state-of-the-art floral design and vet tech lab. This new addition will connect to the existing CTE wing off the front of the campus. And then the areas in green will be renovated for culinary, health science, business, arts and AV, robotics, and the education pathway. And then there will be a second new facility constructed behind the current CTE wing, and it will include 4 new welding and manufacturing shops and classrooms. This is an overall site layout that shows the additional parking lot in gray on the left-hand side. The additional 49 parking spaces will be completed this summer. The blue arrow is pointing to the front addition that will be constructed and connected to the existing CTE wing. The green arrow is pointing to the new welding and manufacturing shops. And then the spaces that will be renovated are outlined in red. And then there will be some demo off the back of the existing building, and a new driveway will be constructed to connect the front and back access areas for the shops. And then here's a video. This is going to be a rendering. David, I think you have to hit play, please.
over a year of planning with campus administrators, the CTE teachers, VLK architects, and Dramala Construction, we have completed the plan drawings and all of the construction documents. The district's construction manager at risk, Dramala Construction, has received competitive proposals from a strong subcontractor pool. The guaranteed maximum price for the new CTE building is $23,927,716. The base construction budget for this project in bond planning was $20,381,000. The overall budget for this project, including development and furniture and equipment, is $23.9 million. The total estimated all-in cost will be about $27.2 million, which is $3.9 million over the bond planning budgeted amount. Presented here is the budget to actual analysis. While the project is $3.9 million over budget, we do have funds from interest earnings, the 2019 program contingency funds, carryover 2014 funds, and then insurance proceeds that all total $9.6 million. Phase 1 of Brazos Port High School was also over budget, so at this time we have $5.7 million remaining to be able to proceed with approving this contract for the new CTE center at Brazos Port High School. I will also add that these funds are from the voter-approved bond program, and these funds can only be used for the construction and capital items as approved by the voters. These funds cannot be used to fund teacher salaries or any other general fund operating expenses. So at this time, it is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve the GMP of $23,927,716, from Dramala Construction for the new Brazos Port Career and Technical Education Facility and improvement. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Assuming we've already gotten authority from the bond oversight committee.
So I meet with them on Wednesday.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
When does construction begin?
I'm sorry?
When does construction begin?
Immediately.
He told me tomorrow. I'm holding to it.
Any questions?
No, I mean, looking across the street, what we've done, I think everybody's excited to keep, like everybody, I wish it wasn't so much what was looking, but it seems like that's the world we live in, so, yeah, I mean, I've just started cooking up.
It's just real nice to have that parking lot, folks, because as an old guy, it's a long walk
Yeah.
from Freeport Intermediate. I do have a question. For our Chromebooks that we bought, is that the same 1.5 million? I asked the question about the 800 plus thousand for the Chromebooks, and you said if we had the 1.5 million, is that?
That's not included in this at all.
Okay, that's not,
Yeah,
it's not the same 1.5.
Yeah, the 9.6 or $9.6 million is not funding that's allocated for any other project
Okay.
or capital item that's included
Because
in the bond.
the Chromebooks are the technology upgrade.
Correct.
Pocket, so to speak, okay.
Yeah, that comes out of that line item.
I'll say, having been in the classroom for several years, especially with high school kids, some of them are looking for something to do. And I will tell you this, you go across the street, and somebody alluded to that a while ago, I was stunned when we first opened it, and you look at the number of kids walking from the main campus to the CTE building, because they're not all these kids aren't going to be doctors or astronauts, robotics, and we've got some great programs there. And giving kids the opportunity to learn trade, to survive, is as important as anything else that we do. And I think that, I'm going to say, I guess it was when I was serving as mayor for these high paid jobs we have, two leaders from industry sat right down the hall here and said, we have to have blue collar people now because we're behind. And so, and I don't know if many of you paid really close attention to it, but our welding kids especially they walk out here and get jobs for $50, $60, $70 an hour. Now, that's dangerous for 18-year-old kids. Very dangerous, because they don't know how to count sometimes. They go, oh, okay. But, you know, it's a sign of the times of things being over budget. But this is, once again, as Rebecca said, was approved by the voters. And it's one time I don't mind being over budget a little bit if we can cover it. And obviously, or evidently, we have the opportunity to cover it. So
I think we are.
Any comments from the public before we move to a vote? Yes, ma'am?
Could you move your microphones to in front of your faces? It's so hard to hear some of you.
it's probably an improvement too, ma'am.
I have a question, I'm sorry. Can you repeat your statement about how much it was over budget across the street? And then at the bottom, it says available funds to allocate. So you're, just so I'm understanding, you're subtracting the $4 million that you're expected to be over budget from these $9 million of funds. But what are you doing for the over budget at Speedwood? I'm sorry.
So Brazos Wood High School has been completed and under budget. So
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Phase 1 of the Brazos Court project was also over budget, and what is being subtracted from the $9.6 million of available funds, which leaves us $5.7 of current available funds to cover the overage on phase 2 of Brazos Court.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry that I misunderstood you.
No worries.
Any other comments or questions from the audience?
I have a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
I just couldn't sit there because when I saw that this was for Bradford High School, I just think this is absolutely wonderful, and it's going to be a great thing for those students who live on that side of the district as Bradford is often referred to. Having taught there for 20 years, I think that's a great investment for BISD to make that look just as good as it looks over here when my children graduate.
Thank you.
Any others? Last call. Elizabeth?
I want to recommend that the Board of Trustees approve this motion
As presented.
as presented.
All right, it's been moved by Ms. Cuellar and seconded by Joe. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by nay. That carries.
Okay,
Get to
what?
work.
I assume they're unloading equipment now, right?
Yeah, they're working right now.
All right, the next item on our agenda under action items is the reconfiguration of Alaska Elementary and Lanier Middle Schools. Ms. Kelly.
The following is in accordance with Board Policy SDB and the district goal that Brazosport ISD will exercise fiscal responsibility to ensure financial strength and provide the resources to equip and maintain quality facilities and educational programming. Tonight, I will present for approval the reconfiguration of the Velasco Elementary and the Lanier Middle School for the 23-24 school year. Over the past 5 years, the student enrollment in our Brazosport High School feeder pattern has decreased by over 600 students. The bar graph on the left shows the trend since 2018, when enrollment was at 3,393 students and is now at 2,781. The line graph on the right shows the enrollment trend specifically for the pre-kindergarten through 6th grade students, which are currently served at Freeport Elementary, Velasco Elementary, and Lanier Middle School. Enrollment for these grade levels have decreased by just under 400 students. Freeport Elementary was built with the capacity to serve 860 students. Velasco Elementary has capacity to serve 715 students, and Lanier can serve 775 students. Based on the capacity and the current enrollment, both Velasco and Lanier can accommodate the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students. Based on the split design of Lanier, it can accommodate 3rd and 4th grade students on one side and 5th and 6th grade students on the other side. Lanier also has the needed elective classroom spaces for band and art, and then also for the science labs. The consolidation does create some operational efficiencies, and the budgetary impact would be a reduction of $501,000. All third and fourth grade teachers will move as part of this consolidation and continue to teach their respective grade levels. Class sizes will not be impacted, and teachers will continue to be staffed based on the number of students enrolled in each grade level. No employee will lose their job as part of this consolidation. Presented here is a visual of the current configuration. Freeport Elementary serves 582 pre-K through second grade students. When FES opened in 2018, it served 520 pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, and first grade students. Velasco currently serves 291 third and fourth grade students and was serving 616 second, third, and fourth grade students in 2018. Lanier Middle School was serving 337 fifth and sixth grade students, and 5 years ago was serving 425. Freeport Intermediate serves 405, which is over 100 students less since 2018, and Brazosport High School is serving 904 students, which is also over 100 fewer students since 2018. The proposed configuration would close Velasco, and Freeport Elementary would continue to serve a projected 572 pre-kindergarten through second grade students. Lanier Elementary would serve third, fourth, fifth, and sixth grade students, projected enrollment being at 609 students. Freeport Intermediate would continue to serve a projected 387 seventh and eighth grade students, and Brazosport High School is projected to serve 894 students. The consolidation would balance elementary campus sizes in Freeport and in alignment with the elementary school enrollment in our Clute and Lake Jackson feeder patterns. Based on the enrollment trends, available capacity at the Lanier campus, and the presented cost savings, administration recommends that the Board of Trustees approve closing Velasco Elementary School and reconfigure Lanier Middle School to serve third, fourth, fifth, and sixth grade students beginning with the 23-24 school year as Lanier Elementary School. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
My first concern is the fact, can we refer to it as Lanier Elementary and Middle School? Is there, I mean, we got sixth graders going to elementary school. I mean, that's not across the district.
Stephen Austin does that.
That's true. But,
By
I don't know.
TEA, it'll be recognized as an elementary
Well,
school.
yeah, right, I understand that, but, okay. I just hate to lose the Lanier Middle School name, but.
Well, you still have Lanier, don't you?
So, okay. I just thought I'd voice my concern. Now, looking at the numbers, again, what was the capacity of Lanier?
17, yeah.
Okay, so there's definitely plenty of room.
There is plenty of room.
And again, the teachers who are in the Velasco building will be moving to the Lanier building, similar to Clute, fifth and sixth and seventh and eighth.
Correct.
They'll be separated, so to speak, hallways. I mean, it's configured that way now and then, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
It actually sets up a nice splitting.
And there's some big rooms too, that's a good part.
There's plenty.
Good science rooms.
And a new gym.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the board, comments?
Question in the back.
What are the classroom sizes and the square footage, comparable with Lanier as opposed to the other schools in those industries?
I don't have that number. I mean,
What's the
they meet the class, square footage of the class sizes of Velasco versus
Or the number
Lanier.
of classrooms?
So Lanier actually has the capacity to serve more students, so Lanier is bigger than Velasco. I don't have room size dimensions, but I can tell you that they meet the TEA classroom size requirement when it was constructed, yes.
And they also have some bigger science labs, rooms, which are huge, which, that's good.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, ma'am.
Did anyone take a tour of the campus of Lanier before this was brought up? And I'm asking because my sister-in-law currently works there at Velasco and has visited Lanier, and she has a concern
first question, yes. We had our Assistant Superintendent, Mr. Yos, who was previously principal of Lanier Middle School, so he's very familiar with that campus. And then we had our Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Services, Ms. Rita Cundiff, also walk that building. They have met with both the current principal of Lanier as well as the current principal of Velasco to ensure that Lanier is adequately sized to accommodate all 4 grade levels. And so yes, to your first part of your question. And then the second part about the bathrooms, we have met with staff members, and that is some of the feedback that we heard both from the Velasco and the Lanier staff. And so our maintenance department is actually working to install new bathrooms in the wing that is missing a second set of bathrooms, group restrooms. And so we are working to address that and have plans through maintenance to make sure that there's appropriate number of potties for all 4 grade levels. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir, in the back.
Yes, ma'am.
Hand raised.
I work in Lanier, and I was wondering about adult bathrooms, because that's a problem for us right now. We have 2.
Okay.
So is that consideration, and besides making potties for the little ones, how about potties for the big people too?
I will follow up with Mr. Berger and our maintenance department, and we will see what we can do.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the audience? Yes, ma'am.
Are there plans to repurpose the Velasco?
And so we will currently continue to maintain the Velasco building, so it'll continue with security cameras and internet access and AC at unoccupied temperature, so we're good stewards of tax dollars. So we will continue to maintain that facility so that it stays in good working condition, and evaluate what the district facility needs are before making a decision on what would be in that building or what would be the desired use of that building moving forward.
It's a good building, we don't want it
Correct.
And it's
diminished in any way.
Sorry, I have an older question. Okay. So in the future, if Freeport's numbers rise, would we revert back?
Potentially. We're gonna continue to maintain that facility, so.
Yeah.
That would be
If there's
my-
a need, I would be super excited to welcome additional students in that feeder pattern, so hopefully that indeed happens.
The entire board would love to see that happen.
Thanks.
There was another, yes, ma'am?
So with 3rd and 4th being with 5th and 6th graders, they're gonna be in separate wings, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so do you feel like 3rd and 4th graders are gonna be okay with 6th graders? And will they be running the hallways together and using?
So we currently have Stephen F. Austin and Jones Creek configured to serve pre-K through 6th grade students. And so I think from a educational and social emotional environment, we haven't had any issues with the grade levels all being under one roof. And so, and then at Clue Intermediate, we run 5th, 6th, and 7th, 8th together. So we've got some different configurations throughout the district based on the, communities that we serve. And so
Any other comments, questions? All right, hearing none then, do we have a motion for the,
Yes, I'll
sir.
make a motion to consolidate Velasco and Lanier as presented.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
It's been moved by Mr. Dunn and seconded and thirded by Scott and
Liz,
Cuellar.
I didn't speak up fast enough, Liz got it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by nay. All right, that carries. Thank you, Mr. Berger. Next item that we have on our action items are the reconfiguration of the Lake Jackson feeder pattern pre-kindergarten.
also in accordance with board policy FDB and the district goal that Brazosport ISD will exercise fiscal responsibility to ensure the financial strength and provide the resources to equip and maintain quality facilities and educational programming. Tonight, I also present for approval the reconfiguration of the Lake Jackson feeder pattern for the pre-kindergarten program. Funding for the voter-approved 2014 bond program enabled the district to construct and open 5 new replacement elementary campuses for Boydell Elementary, Freeport Elementary, T.W. Ogg Elementary, Roberts Elementary, and Beth Brandon Elementary. In June of 2017, the new Lake Jackson Elementary attendance zones were approved by the board. Based on the enrollment projections and when the planning for the 2014 bond program was underway, the long-term plan at that time was to close Ney Elementary once the construction of the 3 new Lake Jackson elementary schools were completed. Fast forward to the fall of 2018, when the planning for the 2019 bond program was underway, the enrollment for the Lake Jackson feeder pattern was increasing, and at that time, the demographers projected that the growth would continue and eventually exceed the capacity of the new Beth Brandon, the new Boydell, and the new Roberts Elementary. So the district was also in the process of phasing in a full-day pre-kindergarten program throughout the elementary campuses in our district. In August of 2020, the new Roberts and Beth Brandon elementary campuses were opened. Based on the 2018 projections and the capacity for each of the 3 new elementary schools, Ney Elementary was converted to a Ney pre-kindergarten campus and served all of the Lake Jackson pre-kindergarten students beginning with the 2021 school year in a full-day capacity. Boydell, Brandon, and Roberts elementary schools were built with the capacity to serve 860 students. Based on the capacity and the current enrollment, these 3 elementary campuses have the capacity to accommodate all Lake Jackson pre-kindergarten students. The consolidation does create some operational efficiencies with an annual cost savings of $532,500. All pre-K teachers will move as part of the consolidation and continue to serve our pre-K students. Class sizes will not be impacted, and teachers will continue to be staffed based on the number of students enrolled in each grade level. Again, no employee will lose their job as part of this consolidation. Projected enrollment at the elementary campuses with the consolidation of pre-K to the other Lake Jackson elementary schools, and also with the consolidation of Velasco and Lanier for the 23-24 school year are presented here. And so at this time, administration recommends that the Board of Trustees approve closing the Ney pre-K campus and reconfigure the Lake Jackson pre-kindergarten program to Boydell Elementary, Brandon Elementary, and Roberts Elementary, beginning with the 23-24 school year. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board?
Rebecca, can you go back one slide,
Yes.
please? Okay. All right. Thank you.
I know there are certain requirements for pre-kindergarten, and I assume we built all the schools. I know that we built all the schools,
We
but
did.
for the publics, yeah, those will meet pre-K standards and all the different.
Yeah, we actually built 3 pre-K classrooms as part of the Boydell construction, and then 2 at Roberts and 2 at Brandon. They are equal to the kindergarten classrooms as well, and so those wings are designated for pre-kindergarten and kindergarten as they were designed.
And this will get the pre-K students on the campus that they'll be going to for the remaining 3 or 4 years that they're at that elementary school too as well.
Correct. It aligns them to the feeder pattern that they go into starting in kindergarten currently.
They'd be moving there anyway.
Yes.
Correct. And so for our attendance zones for the schools, for the pre-K, we'll make sure that occurs, right?
So the attendance zones are already done.
Because I always have to remind, the demographers are just a great group to work with.
Yes, sir, I know.
Any other questions from the board? All right, from the audience?
I have a question. Can you go back to the previous slide? Okay, so on the and I'm just like asking this to understand. So on the bottom part where it says cost savings, $532,000. So administrators, all that, you said that they still are gonna have a job in BISD.
Correct.
So then is that really saving the money if we're still paying them in other places?
Yeah, so we'll have other vacancies that's in the administration, like under an administrative contract that they could fill a vacancy for.
And then y'all predict that there's gonna be enough vacancies between, I guess, just the normal school year for that and then also for Velasco?
Yes, we are currently working through that. And we have to carry an additional person for a year or 2. We're committed to making sure no one loses their job as a result of this consolidation. So everyone will have a job next year. Thank you.
Ma'am, yes, ma'am.
I have two questions. One is, I know, I've been told that pre-K, Day also houses pre-K three. So will they move to the new schools as well, or are y'all not offering pre-K three anymore?
We will continue to offer pre-K three, and right now, the plan is to move that to Boydell Elementary. We haven't done pre-K roundup yet, and so we'll monitor that as we get that underway to understand where the pre-K kids are enrolling for next year, which attendance zones are they coming from. So it's subject to change, but right now it's slated to be at Boydell.
And then the other question is, what are y'all planning on doing with names?
So that will, just like Velasco, we'll continue to maintain that building and determine, what the appropriate use for that would be based on district needs within the next year or two. So no immediate plans, but we will continue to maintain it.
Any other questions? All right.
What does it cost to maintain the school for a year? Is that gonna deplete that savings of $532,000?
No, ma'am, that utility spend was based on a conservative reduction due to an unoccupied run schedule.
So it's just gonna cost us $30,000 to keep the school there?
That's savings.
That's a savings.
Okay, but what is it gonna cost to sit it there?
I can get you that number. I don't have it off the top of my head. Any other questions?
All right, hearing none, then we have a recommendation from administration. Do I hear a motion?
I spent my kindergarten, first and second grade years at Nate Elementary. This is kind of a semi-sad day, but it's also part of our times. So at this time, I make a motion that we approve the closing of Nate Pre-K campus. And before we go any further, I'm a big proponent of pre-K because it helps everything else to happen a little better. And so we're very fortunate to have Ms. Evans, Ms. Morris, and Ms. Neighbors to run the campuses where these kids are going in Lake Jackson, as well as we do the folks at Freeport, because success will continue. I'll make that motion.
All right, it's been moved by Mr. Reinhardt. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Scott. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by nay. That carries as well. Thank you, Mr. Flacco. Next item that we have on our action items is the elementary assistant principal for student ratio and 2024 funding request for additional positions. Ms. Kirkman.
Good evening. In accordance with Board Policy CE Local, it is my pleasure to present the request for the 23-24 additional personnel and the approval of the elementary AP per student ratio. During our budgetary guiding principles survey and staffing meetings completed with campus leadership, elementary principals have identified a campus need for additional administrative support to provide instructional, behavioral, and social-emotional support to ensure BISD continues to meet the varied needs of our students. Based on the 2024 budgetary guiding principles survey results, principals also ranked campus supports from the highest to the lowest, and assistant principals were ranked the highest among the group. Currently, all BISD elementary campuses have one principal and one assistant principal, which is in alignment with the benchmark ratios from TASB's 2020 staffing study that they completed in the district. And that ratio is one assistant principal to 450 students. Based on identified campus needs and the 2024 budgetary priorities, administration recommends an elementary assistant principal ratio per student of one assistant principal for every 300 students. The lower ratio will provide a second assistant principal to elementary campuses who serve over 600 students. This additional support will ensure our students continue to learn at high levels, enhance positive behavior support systems, and ensure students are learning in safe and conducive learning environments. Elementary campuses projected to exceed 600 students for 2024 are TW Ogg, O.M. Roberts, AP Boydell, Beth Brannon, and Lanier Elementary.
Administration recommends that the Board of Trustees approve the elementary assistant principal ratio per student of 1 to 300 and approve funding for the additional assistant principal positions in the amount of $225,000. This time, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions from the board?
So this number here, that's not coming off the savings that we're realizing from NAY going up.
That's funding for 3 additional principal positions. There's one at Velasco currently, one at Lanier currently, so those two positions will continue to serve Lanier as Lanier Elementary combined. And then based on the ratios, Rasco currently has 3 assistant principals, and they get 2. And so one of those positions can be absorbed to offset this addition. And so the net add is 3 positions, which is $225,000.
Any questions from the board? From the audience?
Austin has 260 students. Do they have just one principal and no assistant?
So they have an assistant principal and a social emotional specialist. Is that what?
Like a counselor?
Rita, is that?
Yes, they have a
Yes,
counselor.
they
And
have
a counselor.
Right, they have a counselor, and they have a literacy specialist.
Specialist, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah,
Thank you, Rita.
literacy specialist,
Instead of
an assistant principal.
With instructional requirements.
Right,
That's per their request.
per their request.
Any other questions from the audience before we move forward? Yes, ma'am.
Were the principals given the option to just pick a new AP versus some of this other behavioral support staff that was essentially on the chopping block? Was it an either or situation for the principals?
The survey that they did asked the principals to list the positions that they thought were most valuable in order, and what they came back with was they felt like the assistant principal would be the most valuable position to add.
They're for sure valuable. I was just wondering, is that essentially the same role, just with a different title? Like, are they the ones helping the kids in the meltdown?
They carry both responsibilities, and so they will also be able to help with discipline support, behavior-related support, but also be able to serve in special education, in arts, and also different capacities that a behavior specialist don't have the ability to serve.
Maybe more umbrella for the services and stuff?
Correct.
Versus the
Correct.
behavioral interventionist?
The fortunate thing, there'll be 2 of them instead of 1, and so they won't be maybe so taxed. They're gonna be busy, but they might be a little less taxed anyway.
I would assume they would have a clear role in behavior, though obviously that's the role of an assistant principal, so I would assume that would be an important part of that position too as well.
Absolutely.
Right, and they absolutely, the field specialists were also important, but the assistant principal, like Ms. Kirshner said, are able to support in additional ways, such as art meetings that take time away from the principal a lot of times, and LPAC meetings that only the administrator can conduct, and then also do investigations on campus for behaviors and also support behaviors. So.
All right, we have a recommendation from the administration. Do we have a motion to approve?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the ratio 1 to 300, assistant principal to student ratio.
All right, it's been moved by Mr. Dunn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jerry. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by nay. All right, thank you, Ms. Kirshner.
Thank you.
Next item we have on the action items is the declaration of a program change and implementation of the reduction in force policy, DFF be local for administrative services effective at the end of 2022-2023 contract year school. Ms. Kirshner.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Hahn. Good evening. The following presentation is alignment with the board policy DFFB local and the superintendent's recommendation for a program change within the Administrative Services Department. A program change may be due to a redirection of resources, efforts to improve efficiency, a change in enrollment, a lack of student response to particular course offerings, or legislative revisions to programs. Efficiencies and reductions of resources support the reduction of behavior specialists or intervention specialists within the Administrative Services Behavior Management Team, who primarily support our elementary campuses currently. Positions that are currently filled will be considered for available positions in accordance with Board Policy DFFB local. This program change will be effective at the end of the 22-23 contract school year. This program change does not impact behavior technician, and in the 23-24 school year, each elementary campus will have one full-time behavior technician who will continue to offer day-to-day behavior support to our elementary campuses and administrators. In previous action, the Board of Trustees approved the elementary assistant principal to student ratio of 1:300. Based on this approval, elementary campuses with enrollment greater than 600 will have additional assistant principals on their campus. All personnel impacted will have a position at BISD for the 23-24 school year, so positions will not be lost, employment will not be lost. And they will be offered positions within BISD's behavior programs within our special education services team and/or a teaching assignment that matches their current credentials. Additionally, a behavior specialist will have the opportunity to apply on any campus administrator vacancy or assistant principal vacancy if they have the appropriate certifications required by that role. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Trustees declare a program change and implementation of the reduction in force policy DFFB local for the Administrative Services Behavior Specialist at the end of the 22-23 contract school year. And at this time, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Joe? From the board?
Administration has met with all the behavior techs, is that correct?
Yes.
These are all certified teachers, correct? So,
Yes, sir. They're all required to have valid teacher certification.
Any questions from the board? Audience? Yes, ma'am.
What would the typical deficit be between their current certification and the available administrative requirements for them to apply for the next year?
I'm sorry, are you speaking in terms of obtaining like their administrator or principal certification?
The back one, in particular? It says that they will have an opportunity to apply.
Yeah, so many of our current behavior specialists actually have their administrator certification currently, their principal cert. If they don't, they would have to enroll in a master's program or a program that's offered to obtain that certification and meet those requirements of the State Board of Educator certification.
Thanks for my curiosity question. I was just wondering what those people would be looking at to move to that next step.
No, yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if maybe this is already covered, but I was just curious as to what the actual reason was that you're doing away with these positions. Is it a budget reason?
So, as I shared earlier in the presentation, is that we, during our setting our priorities for administrators and evaluating positions and programs on each of our campuses, this is feedback that was discussed with our principals, with district leadership, and that ranking and priority is how this decision was made.
I'll add that it absolutely was related to the district's need to reduce spending. And so we have currently we have an $11 million deficit. If you'll stick around for the budget report shortly, I'll give you lots of information, but we are currently in an $11 million deficit situation for the current year. We do have a need to reduce spending in the future years, and so as we move through the budget development process for 2024 and had those conversations
it's certainly surrounded by the need to reduce spending. These supports are valuable and were ranked effective by our elementary principals, and so we know that they depend on this level of support, but unfortunately, when we're in the situation to have to reduce spending, we have to prioritize, and so, yes, ma'am.
Just as a parent of a child with behavior issues who, we've done the R's, we are on special ed, these people are absolutely invaluable to people like me and, and to families like us. And it's extremely unfortunate that not only are the kids going to lose out, but these valuable employees are losing their passion and what they do. And I know that you say they have an opportunity to go and be administrators or work in special ed, but as a family who deals with this, these people are absolutely invaluable to our children.
Thank you for your feedback. Thank you.
Any other comments from the audience? All right, we do have a recommendation from the administration. Do I have a motion?
I move for approval.
It's been moved by Scott. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Cuellar. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by nay. All right, that carries. Thank you, Ms. Kirshner.
Thank you.
Next item we have on our action items is the cancellation of the District 6 and 7 trustee election. Ms. Kelly.
Good evening again. In accordance with Board Policy BB Legal, it is my pleasure to present for approval the cancellation of the trustee elections for District 6 and 7. The deadline to file of February 17th, 2023 has passed for a candidate to file an application for a place on the ballot. Sections 2.052 and 2.053 of the Texas Education Code requires that the Secretary of the Board of Trustees to certify in writing that the board that the following candidates for the May 6, 2023 election are unopposed for election to office. Unopposed for election to office is District 6, Mr. Scott Schwartner, and District 7, Mr. Mason Howard. Upon receipt of the Secretary's certification, the Board may, by order, declare the unopposed candidates elected to office. Once this declaration is made, the May 6, 2023 trustee election for District 6 and 7 will be canceled. At this time, administration recommends that the Board accept the certification of unopposed candidates for other political subdivisions, approve the order for cancellation, and declare the unopposed candidates for District 6 and 7 elected to office. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
What happens if we don't support it?
Can we just do one? Can we just do District 7 and not do
Oh, no, for myself. It's an honor to serve. I've really enjoyed the past 9 years, and I continue to enjoy it.
Thank you for your continued commitment.
Any other comments from the board? From the audience?
Sarah, do you want to say anything? No? Good.
Hearing none, then, yes,
How long are the terms for?
3 years.
Okay.
Scott has just finished his 9th year, and I'm about to finish my 12th.
I'll get to hand Sam and Annie their
Yes.
They're also unpaid positions. They're elected and unpaid.
Very unpaid.
So thank you for your volunteer effort.
Although that question comes up a lot. How much do we make? Twice as much as was true. All right, we do have a recommendation from the administration. Do I hear a motion? Chris has moved that we accept the recommendation as presented, and seconded by Joe. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And all opposed by nay. All right, you've got us another 3 years. Since there are no items to be pulled from the consent agenda, we will move to the reports. Public comment will be allowed on each report after it is presented. Our first report is the Texas Association of School Board Compensation Report. Ms. Kirshner.
Thank you. Good evening again. It is my pleasure to report data from the
from the 22-23 TASB pay maintenance study, along with recommendations prepared by TASB for the 23-24 compensation plan. As part of the pay maintenance study, TASB selects peer districts to evaluate BISD employee compensation and pay grade data. This peer group evaluation ensures that BISD salaries and pay structures remain competitive. There hasn't been any changes to the peer districts from the previous years, but we do see that if, like TASB and ISD did not participate, however, we did include their teacher pay data to evaluate. In addition to the market peer group evaluation as outlined on the previous slide, TASB also references data for positions within school districts that could also be influenced by industry data. TASB sources data from Economic Research Institute and Comp Analyst to complete that exercise. The pie chart shown is an overview of the experience for Brazosport ISD teachers. As you can see, 50% of BISD teachers range from 6 to 20 years of experience, and the actual average years of experience for BISD teachers is 11 years. Okay. This line chart shown shows Brazosport ISD salaries compared to market data. Brazosport ISD is actually in the orange line with the market data elevated with the blue line. The data is shared starting with step 0 or first year teachers and following an increment of 5 years. Compared to market data at step 10, you can see that's about the third bullet point. BISD is actually 96% of market median, which is our lowest comparison point, which is a difference of $2,655. BISD teacher salaries range from 96% to 99% when compared to the local market median. This table above provides a comparison to BISD teacher salaries in the local market median, what I was reflecting on the previous slide. It also outlines the percent of market and the salary difference at each increment. As shown on the previous chart, the market comparison at 10 years is the 96%. I don't know if our pointer works on this, but that's at the 10-year mark, the 96% is our lowest point. In addition to base pay, teachers are also eligible for stipends that are specifically related to their teaching assignment and content area. Brazosport ISD continues to set the standard and provide stipends equal to or greater than the market median. This list is not inclusive of all stipends for that BISD teachers are eligible for. However, this is the comparison data provided by TASB for some of the more common stipends school districts apply to teacher salaries. In addition to the teacher salaries, the TASB pay maintenance also evaluates BISD compensation for central administration, campus administration, professional roles, clerical and professional positions, instructional support, and auxiliary roles to comparable market data. The table above outlines each pay group, and you can see that the actual employee's pay compared to the market ranges from 96% to 100% of market data. The campus administration pay group data reflects the 96% I just mentioned. And the main difference in this data set or data point is primarily related to the number of duty days assigned to campus administrators at Brazosport ISD. The actual daily rate comparison ranges from 98 to 101% of market median for our campus administrators. On the following slide, I will review the TASB recommendations as well as a result of this study. Recommendation 1 indicates to implement pay structure adjustments to align with market data. This includes adjusting the minimum and maximum for each pay grade to ensure strong starting salaries and midpoints that align with market. Recommendation 2 includes the adoption of a general pay increase, or GPI, to maintain a competitive market position. The study provided 3 models for a GPI. A model is provided with a 2%, 3%, and 4% general pay increase. The teacher general pay increase is calculated as a percentage of market median salary, and non-teacher general pay increases are calculated as a percentage of the employee's pay grade midpoint. when supplied. On the following slides, I will share the line chart for each model comparing current teacher salaries, market median data, and the projected general pay increase for 23-24. This chart reflects the 2% GPI, which is the first model, and the starting teacher salary would be $60,000, which is $1,000 higher than our current teacher's starting salary. The increased amount for each teacher would be $1,300 on this model. The orange line continues to reflect Brazosport ISD. The blue line is our market median, and the newly added green line is the proposed GPI increase and a new comparison to current market data. Did I click it or did I not? Yes, I did. Sorry. This chart here reflects the 3% GPI model, and the starting teacher salary would be $60,500, which is $1,500 higher than our current teacher salary. The increased amount for each teacher would be $1,900 on the model, which reflects a 3% pay increase. And once again, the same line is true, but you will see how the green line is now starting to approach our market data. And I also should point out that this does not include any of the eligible stipends. This is strictly base pay on the teacher salary matrix. And this last chart here reflects the 4% GPI, and the starting teacher salary would be $61,000, which is $2,000 higher than our current starting salary. The increased amount for each teacher in this model would be $2,600. I also point out here that same color coding for each of the lines, and you'll see how the green line does start to approach and exceed our market data. However, we do anticipate the market data to grow a little bit next year when our peer districts also apply some type of, salary increase or general pay increase to their
Always
employees.
chasing the blue line.
Chasing the blue line. And finally, recommendation 3, and it includes adjustments to address market difference and applies a pay increase to ensure all salaries are paid 1% above the minimum. An additional strategic adjustment if the total pay remains lower than 88% of proposed midpoint for the 23-24 compensation plan. And on the following slide, I will share the budget impact for each of these models presented. Do I have to? I should. I will.
Okay.
Just for review, and Cassie has prepared this list. Okay. So for cost model 1, which is the 2% GPI increase, you will see that the estimated total amount of budget impact is $2.3 million. The pay groups are aligned on the far left side. The general pay increase is the first column, and then adjustments are the adjustments that just mentioned in recommendation 3, with the total estimation in the far right column. Projected cost for model 2, which is a 3% general pay increase, is approximately $3.3 million. And once again, you'll see the GPI amount, the adjustments, and then the total for each of our pay grades or pay groups. And last is the cost of model 3 cost projections at 4%, with an overall budget impact of $4.3 million. Once again, GPI adjustments and total cost for each of our pay groups. Okay, this information and data is presented for report only and no action is required. In April, I will be preparing a recommendation for the 23-24 compensation plan in alignment with the 23-24 budget preparation timeline. At this time, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions from the board?
Not a question, but a comment. I wish 9 years ago I could remember the number, but I want to say it was definitely in the 40s, that how far we've come on starting pay and pay across the board for our teachers. So we've really done a lot of work, this board, over the last 10 years, plus years, to get our teacher pay and stipends to a point where our teachers can be fairly compensated for what they're doing too. So it's very good to see those numbers there.
Thank you all for your continued support over the years as well.
Well, in a few years before that, we were not giving raises, and had not for a couple of years. And weren't doing any studies. Didn't have any surveys, wasn't getting anything from CASB, just deciding amongst the board's own, thoughts what pay raises ought to be, so.
There are several here that would remember that, the only increase we got pay-wise for a long time was to cover insurance, and that was it, so, you know, sadly enough, just 12 years ago when I retired, our starting pay is pretty close to what I was making when I retired, so we've come a long way in 10 years, and so, we're gonna continue positive and quality education. We have to have positive and quality teachers.
Thank you.
Go back to the pie chart again, if you would, please.
So it'll start with C here for some reason, a little distorted.
Oh, I thought it was mine.
No.
Interesting fact that, you know, over 52% are 10 years or less teachers.
11.
Yeah, 11. Well, 10 of them. Right?
About split 50-50.
And, you know, we always seem to be lagging in the 15 to 25.
You can see that right here.
Yeah, I mean,
And how the
that's,
market increases for that pay group.
we've done that, I mean, that's been the case for the last 6 years that I remember, if not more. It's just a comment that always surprises me. It's kind of like, but again, we don't have as many teachers in that pay range as we used to, I think. I think it's dropped down quite a bit from that, so, the 0 to 10.
Our average year is 11 right now. Average years of experience for our teachers is 11
With the district.
in our district.
I'm not sure about it. Yeah, look, I didn't look at the paper report around, but yeah, I think it's close. Okay, I just wanted to see that again, make sure I had the numbers right.
And this has also been impacted over the last several years with legislation in terms of House Bill 3 and increases that were provided at step 5 and greater. One of the reasons why we've seen a larger increase in market data for that area.
Any other comments from the board? Audience? This is your chance to comment about pay. Get a lot of those. All right. Thank you, Ms. Kirkland.
Thank you.
Our next report is Kelly, our 2024 budget planning update.
In alignment with district goals that Brazosport ISD will exercise fiscal responsibility to ensure the financial strength and secure the resources to equip and maintain quality facilities and educational programming. Tonight, it is my pleasure to provide an update on the current 2023 budget, along with an update on the 2024 budget development. I know that's really small, but y'all received a handout of it in the past. I just want to revisit it briefly before we move on to 2024. But the 2023 budget was adopted with a $10.4 million deficit after ending the prior year with over an $11 million surplus due to timing of some 313 revenue payments. We did transfer some of that surplus revenue from 2022 to the capital projects fund, which can be utilized at the board's discretion for capital-related purchases or transferred back to the general fund in the future. We adopted the 2023 budget with a $10.4 million deficit. Revised revenue projections using the current year PEEM snapshot enrollment and the actual 313 revenues invoice net of budgeted expenditures put us at an $11.2 million current deficit. 313 revenues were budgeted at $12.6 million, and the actual invoice payment will total $8.4 million. That's a $4 million reduction that is offset by an increase in average daily attendance. Last year, our funded ADA was 10,440, which included some hold harmless provisions to our actual ADA of 10,105. The chart at the bottom of the slide shows the trend for average daily attendance over the past 5 years. And the current adopted budget was prepared with an ADA of 10,200 and is currently averaging between 10,400 and which does generate an additional $1.8 million in funding. We are down, based on that chart at the bottom, we are down 1,296 students in average daily attendance since 2018, which is about an $8 million reduction in overall funding. Also up from our budget, are our special education numbers. Budgeted at 510, Snapshot is coming in at 697 students, which does generate an additional $1.4 million in weighted funding. Other small adjustments to weighted groups are budgeted for ECOD and dyslexia numbers, so the revised current budget deficit is $11.2 million. So the current year budget update with the multi-year reduction plan was presented at the January board meeting, so none of this is new information for you all. And then again at the February board meeting during the budget workshop. That was a public meeting and open to the public and not had an executive session. We have strategically created targets over multiple years to balance the budget through attrition and ensure that we remain in a strong financial position. Our current unassigned general fund balance is $55.7 million, which is $17.9 million in excess of the TEA optimum fund balance calculation. So we're in a strong financial position to be able to make these reductions over a period of time if necessary. So in addition, we do have the $10.8 million that was transferred to capital projects that is available to be transferred back to the general fund. If the current year ends with an $11 million deficit, the available excess fund balance would be $6.7 million. Utilizing these funds, we will need to reduce the current year spending by $8 million if we anticipate allocating an additional $3 million for compensation increases, which would be that 3% mark that Ms. Kirshner just presented. These projections are based on funding formulas under the current law and current 313 revenues. If we reduce an additional $6 million the following 2 years and continue to allocate $3 million each year for compensation increases, we would be slightly under the current optimum fund balance in the 25-26 school year. We are currently tracking school finance-related bills in the legislative session and will continue to advocate for increases to the basic allotment for inflation, changes to the outdated special education weighted population funding groups, funding for our safety and security, and the ability to locally retain revenues negotiated through 313 payments. Budget planning is a comprehensive process that requires the work of the school board, the superintendent, district and campus administrators, and campus site-based committees. We start this process of developing the 2024 budget in January. We have completed the campus staffing meetings, are in the process of meeting with department leaders to review staffing and budgetary needs. We did hold the budget work session at the February board meeting, and tonight is just an update on the budget assumptions and considerations that we have to date. We still have several months of work ahead of us, with the budget being prepared by August 7th and adopted at the August 21st board meeting. The funding formulas for public schools are tied to a basic allotment, which is $6,160 per student in average daily attendance, plus the addition of weighted and allotment-based allocations for other special programs. This is a chart that shows the required spending from these special program allocations, which is in blue, and the actual cost to provide these services in Brazosport ISD for last budget year in red. Two of these areas are tied to our legislative priorities on education funding: special education and school safety. The state is failing to adequately provide funding to support the actual cost of educating special education students. In Brazosport ISD last year, we spent $12.5 million to meet the needs of our special education students, while the state required us to spend $5.5 based on our allotment. This is not just a Brazosport ISD issue, but is a challenge that districts across the state are facing. The Texas Education Agency has reported that the gap statewide is well over $1.8 billion that they're not adequately funding districts for special education services. Every student needs a safe and healthy educational environment that is conducive to learning in order to meet their full academic potential. Brazosport ISD Board of Trustees has ties the health, safety, and security of our students and staff for years with little to no direct funding from the state. Senate Bill 11 from the 86th legislative session created an annual school safety allotment to help fund equipment, programs, and training related to school safety and security, allocating a total of $9.72 per ADA generates just over $100,000 for Brazosport ISD. This allotment is far from adequately funding the actual cost of providing safe and secure schools and should have a minimum or floor allotment per campus. And Brazosport ISD, we are funding police officers and safety and security specialists that exceed $2 million in cost annually, while the state provides us just over $100,000 a year to do so. As a district, we spend $4.1 million on CTE programs, which exceeds the funding by just over $300,000. The state provides a gifted and talented allotment for GT educational programming of $122,000, and in Brazosport ISD, we spend over $3.7 million for elementary GT and high school advanced placement programs. The state comp ed or SPE allocation is supplemental funding that is generated based on low socioeconomic students and is used to provide educational supports for students that are classified as at risk. The bilingual education allotment is used to provide supplemental supports for students in the bilingual and ESL programs. The early education allotment was new in House Bill 3 from the 86th session and is used to fund the second half of our full-day pre-kindergarten program, as the state only provides the basic allotment funding for half-day pre-K programs. New as part of House Bill 3, also from the 86th session, was funding allotment for dyslexia services and college and career military readiness. The chart shows enrollment in orange from 2010 to 2022 compared to the number of teachers in blue. So the enrollment line is orange and has trended downwards, and the number of teacher positions has gone up based on this chart. So in 2014, the year where the number of teacher positions started to increase, the enrollment was 12,364, and through last year's enrollment, it was 11,404. That is a decline of 960 students, and again, we're funded based on average number of students and daily attendance, and a minimum of $6 million in less available funding. So if we compare that same time period, we went from 755 teachers to 835 at a cost of $5.2 million. So from a break-even budget, that's $6 million in less available funding, plus $5.2 million increase in spending, which is $11.2 million. That's an $11.2 million gap in funding. We were able to do this as we benefited from the state funding formulas using prior year values, and which changed in House Bill 3 and from supplemental 313 revenues. While enrollment and ADA are both up from 2022, based on current law, we can no longer sustain current staffing levels, and we will need to make reductions and adjustments to staffing levels based on enrollment and to balance the current budget deficit. When we look at our general fund spending and we break it down into categories, we have roughly $127.3 million in budgeted expenditures, not including recapture or the cost that we have to pay to the appraisal district. 73.2 million of that $127.3 million, or 57% of our total spending, is in the area of direct classroom instruction. The second largest category is operations and technology at 13.6%, but that includes $3.1 million for utilities and just under $3 million for property insurance. Instructional and campus leadership is at 9%, guidance and counseling supports are at 5.2%, extracurricular programs is 3.7%, transportation to and from school each day is 2.4%, school health and nurses are 1.3%, library and media services is 1.2%, curriculum and professional development is 1.9%, and then the general administration is 2.5%. The other thing to keep in mind is that 86% of our budget is tied to personnel, so when we're faced with the need to reduce spending, it's gonna come from reducing positions at all levels and in all categories. We will obviously review discretionary spending in non-personnel categories, but the only way we're gonna get to the target is by also reducing positions. As a district, we evaluate staffing needs based on ratios and student needs annually as part of the budget development process. As we navigate the need to reduce spending over the next couple of years, we will continue to evaluate staffing needs, as we have in the past, and in areas that have the least amount of impact to student achievement. I want to review some notable changes to the positions and to the budget over the last 5 years. Starting with 2019, we reduced 2 digital coaches positions, while we added 10 campus police officers, 2 campus safety specialists, $465,000 in special education teachers and paraprofessionals, 2 assistant principals, and 3 elementary stream teachers. We also allocated funding for the GHOST organization, which allows HR to hire critically needed teachers ahead of attrition to ensure we have highly qualified teachers in hard-to-find teaching positions like bilingual and education and secondary math and science teachers. In 2020, we reduced a director of compliance and monitoring, an early literacy specialist, and a print shop clerk, and another digital coach position. While we added $1.2 million in special education teachers and paraprofessionals, I will add that not all of these positions were filled, and were able to reduce some of them the following year. In addition to 7 pre-K teachers, 4 licensed professional counselors, 4 elementary stream teachers, 2 GT academic teachers that serve our GT program at Ogg Elementary, 2 athletic trainers, and a safety and security coordinator. In 2021, we reduced some of those special education teachers and paras that we had added in the previous year, and we also reduced a communications coordinator. We added 6 elementary library paraprofessionals, 2 elementary stream teachers, 4 behavior techs, a PEEN specialist, a 504 dyslexia specialist, and restructured the remaining digital coaches to our instructional coaching model. In 2022, we reduced 4 assistant principals at our campuses that had fewer than 300 students. We reduced a chief academics officer, a coordinator of HR, a custodial services manager, 2 technology techs, a groundskeeper, and we utilized over $2 million in federal ESSER or COVID response dollars to continue to fund over $2 million in campus support and special education positions at the campus level. We also were able to add over 100 campus-based teachers, interventionists, counselors, and paraprofessionals with the ESSER fund. And then lastly, in the current year, we reduced a director of language acquisition and early childhood, the coordinator of fine arts, the dyslexia and 504 specialist, a bus mechanic, a lead bus driver, while we added over $1 million in additional special education teachers, paras, and an RTI coordinator. The next few slides, we will review items that are being considered for reduction for the 2024 budget year. Starting with central office and administrative positions, we have a director of student services that is retiring. The responsibilities of this position are being evaluated to determine if we can reassign them to existing personnel and absorb this position through attrition. A vacant department secretary position, a warehouse position, a plumber position, and a mechanic position will all also be reduced. We are also reducing some other contracted services which will be managed in-house and save approximately $300,000. So right now, we've identified possible reductions from administration and central office of about $684,000. We did spend the month of February meeting with each campus principal, as we do every year, to evaluate projected enrollment and staffing needs. These reductions identified thus far bring staffing levels in alignment with district ratios and will be absorbed through normal attrition. The total for those reductions is just under $1.2 million. Campus staffing ratios for elementary is 22:1 by each grade level. Middle and intermediate ratios are 24:1 with teachers teaching 5 sections, and high school is 24:1 with teachers teaching 6 sections. Historically, secondary elective teachers were staffed based on course selection. We know that there are some elective class sizes that have limits. For example, welding is limited to 18, while others like PE can have, 40 students in it. So we are working to establish some baseline ratios based on current elective teachers and to identify programs that have low participation that could be consolidated. Paraprofessional staffing ratios will also be reviewed, and then we also review campus administrative support positions at the secondary level to ensure that the campuses district-wide are balanced with equal support. We also took action this evening to approve the elementary assistant principal ratio of 1 to 300, which will provide 5 elementary campuses with a second assistant principal. The next area we've all been evaluating is supplemental pay. We pay out over $4.5 million annually in stipends, supplemental, extra duty, and overtime pay. Items for consideration, identified for consideration with no action yet taken, is the Lanier Distinguished Staff Stipend. This would be a year 2 reduction, and teachers will have the opportunity to earn over $20,000 in the teacher allotment incentive. The attendance incentive, the Reading Academy stipend, which is supplemental pay for 2 coordinators for the additional time that they've spent in the summer implementing the state-required Reading Academy program at all elementary teachers have to complete. Next year is the last year, so this stipend will not be necessary and will be a reduction for the 24-25 school year. And then in 2020 budget year, we added $75,000 to compensate coaches for summer strength and conditioning camp. This is also being evaluated. We budget $40,000 for the Brazos Success Academy extended day and night school, and the actual cost of that is just under $15,000, so we can reduce $25,000 without reducing any services. Sorry, still on this side. Longevity pay is paid out based on years of service and is under evaluation. The EOC retester stipends that are paid out to high school teachers who provide interventions to students who have failed the end of course exam is also under evaluation. Instructional staff on campuses are paid $200 for each TEA distinction earned by their campus, and that is being evaluated. And then the next 3 lines are related to overtime earned by custodians, maintenance, and non-exempt employees. These are all just considerations with no final decision being made yet. While 86% of our budget is payroll, it's still important that we evaluate spending in non-personnel related categories. Across the board, reductions to campus and department discretionary allocations are being considered. Campus allocations are based on a per-student allocation with amounts ranging from $68 per student at the larger elementary campuses to $99 per student at Brazos High School, which is a smaller high school than Brazos Wood. Total campus allocations are $1,027,000. By reducing these amounts 2.5% to 6.5%, it would say $42,000. Department meetings start this week, so there will certainly be some additional items identified. But as a start, we have identified various items related to professional development, travel, supplies, along with district paid dual credit tuition, and the ACP AP testing fees that the district pays. Presented here are additional considerations that are under evaluation and that were presented during the budget work session at the February board meeting. Campus consolidation at smaller and more expensive campuses have been evaluated. Action was taken earlier this evening to consolidate NA pre-K with the other Lake Jackson Elementary campuses, and then consolidate Velasco and Lanier next year, and that combined savings will be over $1 million. BSA and LLC campuses are the 2 most expensive campuses on a per-student basis to operate. Consolidation of these 2 alternative campuses is possible and is estimated to save just over $300,000. We are considering this as consolidation as an option for the 24-25 school year. We did consider the reduction of 2 secondary librarian positions, which has since been communicated that we will not reduce, and we will continue to staff these positions. Library paraprofessionals are a possible reduction. We currently have 11 library paras. Campuses have not always been staffed with a library para. These positions were added in 2021. We took action this evening to reduce the 9 behavior specialists and will continue to fund 12 behavior paras for the 23-24 school year. The district currently funds 4 elementary search teachers, and this reduction was considered, and a decision has been paused pending additional evaluation and stakeholder input. The district currently funds 2.5 truancy officers, and in recent years expanded athletic training services by adding 2 trainers, 1 at each high school. The transition from RNs to LVN savings would be dependent on the number of RN vacancies that we would potentially fill with LVNs, and that's under evaluation. The district currently has 22 campus content specialists serving secondary campuses, with most campuses having 4, 1 per content area. The content specialist model is something that we're currently evaluating. Finally, the last item for discussion is the partnership that the district has with communities and schools. We currently have 12 communities and schools case managers, and through this partnership, the district funds $20,000 for each position through the use of federal ESSER dollars. These positions and these supports were previously funded through federal title funds, and we could go back to funding them out of title, but that would reduce the available title funds that are currently being used for instructional intervention. As we continue to move through the budget development process as a district, we will continue to exercise fiscal responsibility to ensure financial strength. We will continue to be good stewards of tax dollars and transparent to ensure our stakeholders have access to information and continue to support our district. We are in a strong financial position to be able to strategically reduce spending over multiple years if necessary to ensure that we remain financially stable and able to provide teachers and staff pay raises to ensure we retain quality and effective staff. We are committed to making reductions from all levels and from all areas of spending that protect the learning opportunities for students and reduce in areas that have minimal impact to student achievement. We hire about 150 new teachers each year, so we have provided an early exit notification incentive for anyone that is planning to retire or resign at the end of this school year, so that we can begin planning and remain committed to our employees to make these general fund reductions through attrition. This is report only, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Perhaps we should have this report at the beginning of the meeting.
Any comments from the
Rebecca, what is, now you alluded to it briefly, what is the potential, and how much, what is potential dollars lost if 313s or go away or redesign?
Current year, we're collecting $8.4 million in supplemental revenue.
Do we anticipate those to go away completely or to be redesigned? What do we expect?
So the supplemental payments are negotiated on a percentage of the tax savings to the company as part of the tax abatement. So that amount is calculated separately, and then there's also a revenue loss provision, which is calculated still based on prior year values, and so we benefited from that being prior year values for the last 2 years. I do anticipate that will go away, but we are obviously advocating to retain those dollars both on the supplemental side and on the revenue hold harmless side.
But we still get the agreed on 313.
Potentially, I think the other discussion that's happening is recapture, right? I mean, we're obviously considered property wealthy, we're subject to Robin Hood or the recapture system, and so some of the conversations are those supplemental payments create some inequities and available resources for school districts that have those agreements, and so some of the conversation has been around recapturing those dollars as payments in lieu of taxes. And so if that happens, it would be all of it, not just the hold harmless side changing in the current versus prior year value calculation.
And so, it's bottom line, a lot more money is going to the state and a lot less money is staying here.
Yes, sir, that's how the system is designed.
You know, that's kind of sad.
Absolutely.
I'd like to have some money.
Slide 5, you go to slide 5. I think this is an important slide for everyone to look at and see where funding is, and the differences in how we were funded from a state perspective. You can highlight, she mentioned our priorities earlier, but we're behind on SPED from a state perspective, what they're giving us versus what we're spending. We're behind on security. We value security. We value SPED. We're spending the money that we need to spend on these things, but we're not getting adequate funding for those things. And then the other ones are pretty well in line, other than the GT one is, clearly we're spending in excess of $4 million there.
Yeah, and a lot of the GT spending is at the secondary level on the advanced placement courses. And so that's a core content
Correct.
teacher. And
Yep.
so the basic allotment helps offset some of that gap in funding.
But the two that stand out to me the most are the special education and security is what we've been advocating as a board, as many districts across the state of Texas is closing that gap from a funding perspective. If you just close those two gaps from a funding perspective, our budget issues go away, and we're more in line with our actual spending on those.
With the special ed numbers increasing.
Yeah, it's going up every year.
No, right, but if we get close, if we can get them close, we're making a big difference there.
Well, the more numbers we have, the bigger gap there because
100%.
the state's not funding.
Correct.
Any other questions from the board? Audience?
To your point, Scott, what things are in place to help with SPED and safety?
What things are, like, what supports are we
Yes,
currently funding?
for next year. What are the plans to try to reduce?
Safety is what it is, right? We've made the decision to have police at all of our schools, and so we'll continue to do that. And then SPED, we are legally required to educate all students, and so we will continue to do that. And so that's an important part of what we do, and so it's an important expenditure that we have to do.
Yeah, and I'll also add that for special education, we've currently contracted with TCASE, which is a professional organization for special education, and they've partnered with us to conduct a staffing evaluation to evaluate the services that we provide and the current staffing levels that we have and the programs that we have on each campus. And so they're actually in our districts this week, working with our director of special education, our assistant superintendent of secondary, as well as meeting with myself and Ms. Kirshner. And so we will have the report within the next month or two and incorporate any recommendations from that as part of the budget development process.
But that's where we also, our stipend for special ed.
Far exceed the market.
Yeah, exceeds the market, just so we can get the teachers, and we're still behind them.
Yeah.
That's gonna, just the potential to grow the gap even further.
Any other comments? All right, hearing none.
Thank you.
Thank you. I wish there was more people here. Hear all that. The next item that we have on our reports is the student literacy and math performance on the middle of the year screener assessment, K through 12. Mr. Yo and Ms. Kunda.
Good evening. In accordance with the Board House Bill 3 student outcome goals, tonight we will be presenting a brief update on student progress as indicated by the Star Renaissance screeners for math and reading. As a change this year, we'd like to remind the board that Star Renaissance is also the growth measure being utilized for the teacher incentive allotment for grades K through 8, as well as multiple high school courses. We're going to start with grades 1 through 8 math. As we look at each campus in this brief report, bear in mind that for the teacher incentive allotment purposes, a student counts for a teacher if they increase their score by 1 grade equivalency. So, if a student started the year at a 5.2 grade equivalency and ends at a 6.2, they count as having achieved their growth measure because they grew by 1 year. You will notice on some campuses in the report that a grade level may have already increased their overall average by almost an entire grade level equivalency, meaning that teachers have a multitude of students that have already achieved growth for the year. I'll now turn it over to Ms. Cundiff to zoom in on our elementary grades.
year to middle of year, as noted here on the chart, with Robert showing the most growth. Second grade as well, all campuses made growth, with Brandon surpassing the third grade equivalency mark. Our third graders all made progress on the middle of year screener, with TWL Velasco and Stephen F. Austin showing significant improvement.
So, on that slide, you guys weren't trying to fool me by changing colors.
Yeah.
Darker than light.
Sorry, did we?
What?
Middle of, yep.
We just wanted to make sure you were still aware.
Gotcha.
The key is that they did show growth. The dark blue, sorry, on this one is beginning of year, and the light blue is middle of year, and you can see down at the bottom is the grade equivalency. So, yes.
Definitely this grade 4 thing is good. I mean, you're getting towards.
Right, our third graders that hit the fourth grade equivalency mark, yes. All campuses in fourth grade made growth as well, with several of the campuses surpassing the fifth grade equivalency mark.
So starting in fifth grade, you'll see less growth per grade, which is pretty typical of what we see as students transition to middle, intermediate, and high school as regarding norm reference tests such as these. However, looking at fifth grade specifically, each of our campuses in math has increased their average grade equivalency by at least half a year. So for middle of year target, they're all on point, with Rasco's average increasing by a full year already. As we look at sixth grade, the increases were more modest but still healthy, and we would point out that there's particularly noteworthy growth at Stephen F. Austin and Rasco, where both groups of students are achieving at above a seventh grade level already. As we look at seventh grade, this is typically where you see math scores transition as students begin taking advanced classes. There's still increases across the board, with Clute being the lone campus with less than half a year's growth for this particular area. Eighth grade growth appears lower across the board, but still there. This is the first year that honors students are taking a different Star Renaissance exam because they take the algebra test in Star Renaissance. However, our on-grade level students must still achieve a year's growth. So this grade level is an area for targeted support for us moving forward in the spring semester. Before we transition back to elementary for reading, we want to take a look at algebra. High school courses for Star Renaissance are treated a little bit differently than for grades 1 through 8. At the high school level, we're not utilizing a grade equivalency measure for student progress because students are enrolled in courses as opposed to a grade level subject. For example, a 10th grade student could be enrolled in geometry, algebra 2, or algebraic reasoning in some circumstances. Likewise, the same 10th grade student could be enrolled in English 1, English 2, or humanities. Instead of using a grade level equivalency, we will calculate the average growth for each course at the end of the year and use this measure. We've included algebra scale scores in this presentation as an example for the board of student growth, although the scale scores may not be meaningful on their own. If you have any questions about any of that, we're happy to answer it. As we begin looking at the algebra scores, we'd also like to remind the board that this is the first year we're using Star Renaissance as a meaningful measure of student growth for all students at the high school level. Traditionally, Star Renaissance has only been used for intervention students at this level. Teachers have traditionally relied on CBAs and semester exams as their growth measure for all students, and are still transitioning to this tool as a primary instructional function. Looking at our 9th grade students, they show the lowest amount of growth for any grade on each campus. We'll look at 10th, 11th, and 12th here in a second. But they also represent the largest number of students. Therefore, their average will ultimately drive the average used for determining average growth for teacher incentive allotment purposes. As we take a quick look at 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, you can see that the increases are higher, but these represent a statistically small group of students. These are students that are either repeating the course, taking algebraic reasoning as an intervention for the end of course exam, or were not enrolled with us when they should have taken algebra. And with that, I'll now hand it back over to Ms. Cundiff to talk about elementary reading.
Our district has worked diligently to improve reading instruction and ensure that students are reading on or above grade level. Our early literacy specialists and coordinators continue to support our teachers as they implement Tier 1 instructional priorities. Additionally, all K through 3rd grade teachers and principals and assistant principals have or are currently completing the Texas Education Agency required reading academies. Please note that kindergarten is not included in this report because of some of the nuances in the assessment that prevent us from presenting a clean middle-of-year report on the grade level equivalency. We do monitor kindergarten performance and will include this information in an end-of-year presentation. In 1st grade, all campuses made growth, with Madge Griffith making significant progress. You can see more campuses in 2nd grade showed significant growth, with all campuses surpassing the 2nd grade equivalency mark. 3rd graders at all campuses showed growth as well, although not as much as previous grades, and will be an area that we target moving forward for intervention. 4th grade showed growth as well, with only one campus not reaching the 4th grade equivalency mark. Campuses are all working to address challenges as it relates to reading in 4th grade as well.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cundiff. As we look at 5th grade reading, apologize, give me just 1 second. 5th through 8th grade reading across the board shows less growth on Star Renaissance than math did. This does not correlate to a weakness in CBA data, so we're unsure why growth appears stagnant at these grades. Anecdotal feedback does tell us that students at these grades express concern with the MOY assessment overlapping other testing windows and not being taken for a grade. That's something we'll look into more moving forward. Looking specifically at 5th grade, SFA shows the most growth, whereas RASCO shows 0 growth, but is also the only campus whose growth is above grade level. For TIA purposes, this is just an FYI to make sure everybody remembers, students must show a year's growth even if they were above grade level to start, unless they were a full 3 years above grade level as their starting point. Looking at 6th grade, all campuses show modest growth, but none have yet reached a 6th grade grade equivalency. As students progress through the grades, that's something we've traditionally seen and continue to work on. In 7th grade, you'll notice that CLUT is a hot spot, as it was in math. This is the same group of students and will continue to be a focus throughout the spring. LJI shows no growth, but like 5th grade at RASCO, is the highest average student population by its measure. Finally, looking at 8th grade, all of our main campuses show modest growth with no particular standout. This concludes our presentation on the Star Renaissance beginning of year and middle of year screeners. This presentation is report only, no action is required. At this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. We would be happy to answer.
For the public that is here, will you explain the nature of incentive allotment?
I will try to give a brief
Very high
version.
level. Very high level.
A brief version.
It's important.
I think 5 years ago now, close to 5 years ago, the state passed the teacher incentive allotment program that is designed as a pathway to a 6-figure salary for teachers. A number of districts were slow to adopt it because basically no one was sure if the state was going to actually fund it. The state has come through and funded it with recent legislation, so we're part of the cohort that is collecting data this school year to actually award teacher designations. teachers will be awarded either a master's, and now I'm gonna mess it up. So it's master's, exemplary, or recognized. Thank you very much. I get the verbiage wrong. 3 different levels, and they'll get an accompanying, I'll call it stipend, but really it's an addition to their salary from the state, so it's outside of any budget implications that Ms. Kelly just showed you. They'll get an additional allocation from the state that's very sizable. So it's based on the number of at-risk students at a campus. So for example, we do have one teacher in the school district that earned master's level designation in Galveston ISD. We've hired them. They maintain their designation, so we're going to have our first payout this summer. They're a master's level teacher that teaches bilingual at Clute Intermediate. We don't know her exact payout amount, but it'll be somewhere in the tune of $20,000. So we're talking about a pretty healthy amount of money. That counts towards the teacher's average salary, so it's included in TRS. So when you're talking about long-term salaries for teachers, we're pretty excited about it. Right now, there's a lot of work involved because it's based on student growth performance and teacher evaluations. So that's one of the ways that we're utilizing Star Renaissance is to determine average student growth. And in order for a teacher to earn different designations, they have to achieve different percentages of students meeting their growth measure. And once they earn it, they maintain their designation for 5 years. Thank you. That was probably more words than you wanted.
No,
the key
that's
is it's a lot of money.
A lot of money.
Right now, I mean, just to be transparent, right now it's a lot of work. So feedback for teachers is, kind of mixed, but that's because no one's gotten any checks yet. Once those checks start coming this summer, we anticipate that to change. So right now, it is, the first year is planned to be lump sum. We've had some discussion about that recently, because we want to make sure that we are handling that appropriately. So that's not anything that's written into the application that we're bound to, meaning that we can make changes to that in the future. This first year, like the teacher that's going to get paid this summer, she's going to get it in a lump sum. The remainder of our teachers that earn designations based on this year's data will get paid next fiscal year. So sometime late spring, summer next year. It kind of lags.
And it's only for certain subject area too.
Yeah, grade K. So most elementary teachers are eligible. So we have a percentages by campus that we could show, but like at elementary, 85% or 90% of your teachers on campus are eligible. But once you get to 5th through 12th grade in particular, you're looking at only math and reading teachers. So it's a much smaller percentage, maybe half. Once you get to the high school, you're talking about 25 or 30% of teachers that are eligible. Our goal is to add as many teachers as possible. So we are sponsoring teachers to get their national board certification. If teachers pursue that, we reimburse them. They automatically earn a designation. I think we now have 2 teachers in district that have their national board certification, so they actually have gotten paid already. I don't know those exact amounts. That might be confidential anyway. But they were pretty healthy. They were excited. And then we have a number of teachers that are progressing through the program that we're sponsoring for that.
That money doesn't come from our budget. That comes from
completely outside of anything that Ms. Kelly talked about. That's a totally separate state allotment, which, completely outside of our local allotment.
So once again, Star Renaissance is as close as we can equivalent to the Star Test. Is that one of the reasons we're using it, right? I mean, it's going to hopefully equate closer.
Student achievement on Star Renaissance should strongly correlate to student performance on the state STAR exam. So, for those of you that don't have to deal with this every day, it's really confusing. The state gives a STAR exam, and we also give a STAR screener. They're not actually related. You might think they are, but they just happen to have the same name. I don't know why. I think the vendor named their test first before the state did.
And for principals and some of the teachers, and pass on to your teachers, those who are involved in the reading academies, bless your heart.
Yeah.
So it's quite extensive. So that's good. You mentioned the ninth grade algebra, you referenced that it's gonna be more difficult for those teachers to get that incentive allotment. Is that, have you mentioned numbers, or is it just transition time at the ninth grade level?
So my explanation could have been a little convoluted, and I apologize. We don't use a grade level equivalency for that. So we determine a local growth measure, which is really, we take the average student growth for algebra, and that's our mark. So then for a teacher, if their student performed above that mark, they count. If they were below that mark, they don't. That's kind of a simplified version.
And that's acceptable with the state?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And actually, just as a side note, Star Renaissance or other norm referenced tests like that have become a more preferred version than STAR, even by the state. It's also more inclusive. We can include more subjects.
Can you go back to the 7th grade math slide?
Oh, it would have to. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
The question, I made a note, but I'm not sure what the question.
So our scores here are lower, and typically, so I know that you look at a lot of STAR data, so you probably know 7th grade math on your state tests, like typically or traditionally takes a dip, because you start pulling 7th grade honors kids out. That doesn't necessarily apply here, because your 7th grade kiddos that are in honors classes are still taking 7th grade STAR Ren. However, they're not really in a 7th grade math class. They're getting some of that advanced content also, so it's kind of a nebulous area. We don't really know how much that's accounting for the more stagnant growth. I mean, I would point out LJI still has a half grade level. Freeport Intermediate has almost a whole grade level. I'm not sure what the exact numbers are there. Clue is just a little bit lower.
Okay. Yeah, I think that was really what I was referencing. And then last one, 7th grade Wheaton.
Yes, sir.
Since I can't read the board too well. We're not approaching the 6th grade at this, and that's an area of emphasis, correct?
Yes, sir, absolutely. Okay. So, to put it bluntly, at these grade levels, we really deal, I don't really know any way to say it besides student apathy.
No.
I think if you talk to teachers, that's, what a teacher, the feedback I get is that kids get tired of taking Star Renaissance every year, 3 times a year, and that once they're at these grades, they know it's not for a grade, so they don't take the test seriously. So that's something we really battle, kind of. I don't want to say elementary people don't battle that, because I know it is a battle also, but that's the feedback we typically get. And it gets worse as you get into intermediate and high school. So we're working to overcome that. Teachers certainly take that exam much more seriously now, because there's money tied to it. So we're working on ways to try to figure out student ownership of that as well.
So it's not like the 4th grader at Ogg that I read to, the class who was excited about just taking the Star Renaissance. Are you kidding me? He was excited about it. I made that note. That's a check mark. I don't know why, but.
In 3 years, he'll be a 7th grader.
Yeah.
He'll be still excited. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, he'll be real excited about that.
Keep the energy up.
So, what steps are you looking at? Believe me, I know I taught older kids that have way more aptitude than 7th graders. What steps are we looking at to, I guess, mitigate that aptitude?
I don't want to put words into Mr. Cole's mouth at all. I know he's still here. But we do it's really a collaborative effort of also looking at things we might be able to do with the assessment window for other exams. So your kiddos, like at high school in particular, they really care about, their semester exam grade, CBAs in some cases, depending on how grading for that is handled in different course areas. So if there's ways that we can integrate Star Renaissance into the existing assessment model that might alleviate some other testing. What I'm trying to say is if we can test kids less and make this more important to them, that's what we're going to try to do.
And I don't know how much testing, where's everybody out, but high school teachers are in a bind because they don't know who's going to be here today or who's going to be scheduling process, could it be possible for spring at band, when are the contests? When is baseball gonna be gone? When is the drummer gonna be gone? When's the orchestra gonna be gone? So that those guys don't miss proximity to the testing time.
So one thing, I mean, I just gotta give kudos to, Mr. Cole and Mr. Winchie for the effort they do building the assessment calendar every year. So they've probably already started on next year's calendar, they're probably already getting feedback from everybody. One thing that I know for sure, at high school, and I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, I don't think that myself, or either of the principals, or assistant principals, I don't think we really paid much attention to Star Renaissance overlapping the other windows and the impact that that might have on kids. So when it came up to that this year, we got some feedback asking about moving windows around and things like that. Well, that's very difficult to do on the fly, but now we definitely know that's one of the things that was earmarked for the development of this coming assessment calendar.
Okay. That gives everybody a better, more fair shot anyway.
Yes, sir.
Just because of their attitude.
Yes, sir.
I think it's good that we're looking at this. I think this helps, our expectations to make sure that we are working hard toward the improvements, which I know we are, but this is a great measurement. So I want to take the opportunity to thank you guys for including the students' outcomes. I think it's very important that we do that each month. So thanks. Thanks for including.
Yes, sir. We've received that feedback, and we'll have a calendar where we will have it, we'll have some student outcomes on.
I heard that. I'm anxious to see that.
Yes, sir.
I was still looking at that the assessment window for Star Renaissance is fairly large to give campuses flexibility to select different dates that may or may not work. And the other thing that we have worked to emphasize at the secondary level especially is setting goals with kids and providing incentives for them achieving goals related to assessments, gets them more engaged, especially at higher levels. So we're working on encouraging that within the classroom as well.
Questions from the audience? I don't know if I didn't, was that your job?
I mean, I've only been here 12 minutes. Questions from the audience? What you need to do?
Lady in the back.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I have more of a comment just anecdotally. I
Sure.
actually have a LGI 7th grader with math, and she does take honors classes, and I know she's on her third teacher already this year, and I'm sure that might have some effect on some of these things.
Oh, absolutely. So at Lake Jackson Intermediate Math, and also include intermediate math, 7th grade in particular, that we've had some real staffing challenges. Y'all might be aware. Obviously, you know about that. And that's been a major challenge. We do have staff at both of those campuses that have stepped up and that are doing a very commendable job, but it also has been a real challenge for sure.
I would like to take the credit for this, but it was actually Jerry who, 5, 6 years ago, pushed for us to start what we call ghost positions, ghost school, to be able to hire teachers in those high need areas, even when we didn't actually need one. Some of those high positions, we always seem to need them, but there was a line item in the budget earlier that just showed that instead of just waiting until the normal time when you hire people, I mean, we want to hire them whenever we can get them. So good ones, anytime we can get them. So
teacher in week.
Apparently that has not helped your child this year.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that was the goal of that budgetary item, to provide hiring at any time.
We need Ms. Christian to find more math teachers.
Come on, Ms. Christian.
We're growing on it.
Well, we're growing our own,
growing our
which
own.
is our goal. But it wasn't really directly towards your kid.
And she is just one in a large classroom, I'm sure, so as a case study, anecdotally, of course.
Yes, ma'am.
Those type of issues do show up. We see that across many campuses when we have a teacher that may be out for whatever reason, or we see those dips in data that we get continuously.
One last question. Where did you get my camera?
Believe it or not, I did not pick out this slide background, or it would have been white and blue with the BISD logo. It would not have had a snapshot. Thank you, appreciate it.
Next item under reports is our bond planning and construction update. Mr. Alex Gourmet.
Good evening. In accordance with Board Policy TV Local, it is my pleasure to present the planning and construction update for the 2019 bond program. As of March, we've got total POs issued of over 72.23% completed or in progress. This slide is a drone picture that was taken the Friday before spring break. It shows the front entry of Hopper Field, well under construction, and in the background you can see the concession stand and the new restroom additions that are under construction as well. We've had a lot of challenges with underground utilities and things of that nature around the concession stand, so all of that is resolved and we should start seeing it come out of the ground quickly. We are still on schedule. This is the front view looking directly at the new front entry, and then a close-up view. And this is over at the concession stand. You can see all of the draping work and the plumbing work that is in place. And this is looking from the back of the front entry, and the visitor side concession stand and storage room as well. Over at the Brassport High School field house, it's well underway as well as on schedule. And these are just a couple of views, just giving you a perspective of where it is on the campus. The old field house is over to the right, and it should be demoed. They ran into a paperwork problem during spring break, so the equipment was to arrive today to start knocking the building down. This is, as you enter the building, that's the front office area. And then this is the weight room. And this is as you enter the front door, the main corridor. And this is the boys' laundry lockers, and then the laundry areas over to the right. And this is the varsity boys' locker room. And this is also the locker room with the showers to the right. And at Brassport High School CTE, this is a front view of the new addition, and thank you so much for your approval of this tonight. We are ready to get started. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
So the completion of the Hopper Field stuff, when is that?
Before football season. Before the first game.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I guess it'll, the front will be ready for graduation, or how do we,
No,
how do
the
we
front,
handle?
we're hoping for the front to be ready for graduation, but there will be access. Graduation will be held at Hopper Field. And just like the track meet that was there, a couple weeks ago. And, I think it went very well. So they will have it looks a little messy right now with all the construction work. But before graduation.
And we don't have concession at graduation either, so there's no, that's not an issue.
No.
So we will be directing people to the existing bathroom. To the facility? To the facility. One more year. One more year.
One more.
I had a question. It's really not about those construction updates, but at one point in time, we were talking about during all the different construction stuff that was going on, the potential additional parking in front of the high school.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it has that long U, and I thought.
Right, that's part of what you approved tonight.
Parking closer for adults.
Oh.
There's 49 additional parking spaces.
Well, I'm sorry, I saw that.
Yes.
Okay.
So that it's just gonna be added on in front?
To the
Front
existing parking that's close
It's
to
gonna be
the
on the
front
U.
door.
Closer to the school.
Yes.
Yeah.
The garden's gonna go away.
Part of it.
Faux pas on my part. Excuse me.
That's quite all right.
You got 2 more years.
Any other questions from the audience? Any other comments? scheduled, board meeting will be April the 17th, right here at 6 o'clock. Next item that we have is executive session. It may be called for the purposes permitted by the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Section 551.071 through 551.146. Section 551.071 is a consultation with attorneys. Section 551.071 on any agenda item. Section 551.72 for the purpose, .072, for the purpose of discussing the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. Section 551.074, personnel matters, appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, dismissal, or complaint. And Section 551.082 for the purpose of considering discipline of a public school child or complaint or charge against personnel. The board shall return shortly.
Girl Scout cookies.
It is
There's just one box in there.
11:02, and we are reconvening from executive session. And unless there is some objection, then we will stand adjourned.